Chapter 302. Two families, six guards? Never heard of them. Ling Su shook his head. Big blockhead. Did you suffer a loss 2 days ago? The amethyst lady asked curiously. Crane had a look of helplessness as he corrected her. After 3 days, I have to look at you in a different light. Yes, in Yeoman City. The tall and sturdy man scratched his head embarrassedly. The 6 of them are all Heaven Road list martial artists. Tang Tian said, the lowest rank is within the top 9,000. The highest is 8511. That's right. Qiu Zhijun's mouth revealed a smile. Sima Zhao's face congealed. He finished reading the report in his hands. The fight between Crane and Wu Taiyu was extremely detailed, but the fight between Ling Su and Huai Bai Hua did not have any details. I will handle Tang Tian. Meng Wei took the most difficult opponent and continued, Old Jun Tu will handle Crane, Single Blade will handle Ling Su. The 3 of you handle Tang Tian's army. I heard that their army is commanded by Spirit General. Be careful. We have never fought against an army before. Although Wu Taiyu's strength was not bad, but in Sima Zhao's eyes, he was not a true expert. If he wanted to kill Wu Taiyu, it would be easy. The clan elders of the Sima family all had unfathomable strength. My bones are still strong. Although the old granny said that, she was still happy in her heart. Today's weather is good. The flowers are blooming well. Xiao Yu, go get a jug of wine. I will drink it myself. Qiu Zhijun finally understood. He was very clear of his junior brother's personality. Every move was linked. There would definitely be a killing move. So the real killing move was here. That's good too. Qiu Zhijun nodded his head. He glanced at his junior brother, who was carefully reading the report in his hands, his eyes revealing a bright light. Crane was still relatively calm. From the looks of it, Ling Su and Crane's strength should be around 8,800. The purple-haired lady spoke. On her forehead, there was a purple crystal. Sima Xiao laughed. Which expert did it? Old Feng was an onyx soul horse. His face congealed. I do not know yet, but I've already sent people to investigate. Yes. Everyone replied in unison. Then your son will go first. Sima Xiao said goodbye to the old lady. However, he was actually killed in a direct confrontation. When he walked out of the courtyard, the smile on his face disappeared and his eyes turned cold. Did you go to Fatty Li's territory? Fatty Li doesn't have any powerful guys under him. The purple crystal woman asked inexplicably. The first branch and the second branch were finished. His impression of Ling Su was even less. The first and second branches have sent someone to plead for leniency. Qiu Zhijun said indifferently. They suffered a setback previously, so this time they gathered all their strength and attacked Scorpion Tiger Valley. The towering man grinned and said, It's more exciting to fight with an opponent of the same level. It's really boring to always fight those rookies. Sima Xiao did not stop them. When he was young, for the sake of raising him, his mother had accumulated a cold poison and often had to drink alcohol to warm her body. Looking at his mother's aged complexion, Sima Zhao's heart turned sour and helped his mother to tuck in a blanket on her knees. It's a chilly spring. The cold air in the spring is heavy. Mother needs to be more careful. Ling Su's face changed. Even the usually calm Crane's expression congealed. When the old granny heard that, she looked at her own son in a daze. Although her son didn't seem to have changed much compared to 2 years ago, although he still had a gentle smile on his face, there was an additional layer of mist that could never be seen through in the depths of his eyes that were as bright as the stars. That was the result of all these years of suffering. Everyone's face became even uglier. Just at that time, Xiao Yu brought the wine. Sima Xiao poured it for the old granny and said calmly, If your son wants to be, naturally he can be. Seeing his senior brother smile, Sima Xiao became angry and snorted. I want to see the detailed report. Crane, this unfamiliar name, Sima Xiao did not have much of an impression of him, and only knew that he was Tang Tian's subordinate and came from a small sect. Because he is the boss of the 3. Old Foam explained. Old Foam mocked. Forget it, you even suffered a loss 2 days ago. Thinking about the report that he had just received, Qiu Zhijun suddenly felt good. his pale white face revealing a smile. She suddenly said, I heard that recently a few branches have come to find you. It's not Fatty Lee. Meng Wei interrupted. Let's not talk about other matters. Let's arrange the tasks now. Her junior brother's personality would definitely not give them the chance to breathe. The prey that was targeted by her junior brother had never survived, other than. It was the season when the peach blossoms were in full bloom. The entire garden was filled with the colors of spring. Meng Wei was still on the road when she received the report. The six of them sat around the table, all of their faces ugly. In their hands was the report of the battle between Ling Su and Huai Bai Hua. Others did not have the details of the battle between Ling Su and Huai Bai Hua, but they did. They met a fist saint. Qiu Jun glanced at Tang Tian and said indifferently, almost all of them were wiped out. 8,511. I never thought that Lacerda constellation would have such a terrifying martial artist. Sima Xiao was surprised. Crane did not sneak attack, but directly invited and killed Wu Taiyu. Everyone was enlightened. That's right. Normally, the boss of a group would always be the strongest person. In this world, the strong were respected. It's rare for me to come back. I've always been outside for the past few years and did not have the time to serve Mother. Sima Xiao said respectfully. His usual mischievous smile was swept away, leaving behind a warm and gentle smile. That's right, that's right. The old lady nodded her head. She immediately felt that her words were not logical, and teased, Look at us, mother and son. It's as if you were already the patriarch. He started to develop a strong interest in Tang Tian. Go and collect all the information related to Tang Tian. This fellow is not simple. Oh, so it's to shave the eyes. Tang Tian was enlightened, and immediately said, The two families' 6 guards are coming, and this time their target is us. Yes, your son's market is rising. Sima Xiao did not hide anything from his mother, and said honestly. The old lady sat up straight, her face becoming solemn. Since young, you have always had your own views, and your temper is stubborn. I will not ask about your matters. But Xiao, in the past, the two of us were truly wronged, but let bygones be bygones. It was the first time Sima Xiao was surprised. Why? The amethyst lady asked. That's right, that's right. Tang Tian smiled and waved his hand. But, since we already know about it, we have to teach them a lesson. The old lady drank a mouthful and waved her hand. Let's go, let's go. I'll drink for a while, and then go rest. What do you plan to do with Lupus Constellation? Qiu Jun asked. How would I know? Sima Xiao waved his hands, his face looking like a rascal, but in the end he could not resist his senior brother's sharp gaze and laughed. I heard that Scorpion Tiger Valley has a great beauty, and my few cousins are all dissolute. Who knows? Maybe they met her. If the Fist Saint has some sort of relationship with the beauty, their luck is truly terrible. Qiu Jun stared at his junior brother's face with interest. Who cares what rank they are? I will stab them to death. Ling Su said fiercely. Everyone's heart trembled. Ling Su said impatiently. If you have something to say it quickly, fart quickly, don't delay my training. What a strange and evil spear technique, to actually be able to transform a person into a silver statue. And after 2 hours, the silver statue will disappear. The tall-built man asked, Old phone, do you know what spear technique that is? Junior brother has not been so excited for a long time. Sima Xiao regained his frivolous look and laughed. What's the result? Towards her son's concern, the old lady was very happy. I am very curious. How did the two of you suddenly become so ferocious? Tang Tian circled around the two of them. TSK, I really couldn't tell. As expected, after not seeing each other for 3 days, I have to shave my face off to meet you. Sima Xiao said gently. Mother's words are right. There can't be 2 Simas under the heavens. Why would I want to seek death with them? Furthermore, your son will be in charge of the family in the future and will need help. Tang Tian would look at Crane on his left and then look at Ling Su on his right, as though there was something weird on their faces. Sima Zhao's face was startled and asked, Tang Tian's men? What chance encounter? What if? I'm afraid it's all junior brothers doing. How's Huai Bai Hua's strength? The single-armed swordsman asked. Didn't Huai Bai Hua die too? Sima Xiao regained his composure and laughed. Onyx Soul is not as easy to talk to as us. Let them be the vanguard and test Tang Tian's strength. All right, Wu Taiyu and Huai Bai Hua are dead. The martial artist who killed Wu Taiyu is called Crane, and the one who killed Huai Bai Hua is called Ling Su. They were definitely the highest-ranked martial artists they had met so far. According to the scale of the Heaven Road list, basically every 100 ranks meant a grade. Sima Xiao accompanied his mother and sat in the garden admiring the flowers. Following his rise in status in the family, his mother, Madame Lin, had a much better life. She was extremely proud in her heart and smiled. That's my son. The young servant by the side immediately acknowledged and turned to get wine. Not sure. Old Feng shook his head, but he's definitely stronger than the two of them. Hey, you don't have to accompany me if you're busy. The old granny continued. I'm living well now. There's nothing to worry about. Xiaoyu accompanying me is enough. How's Tang Tian's strength? The one who spoke was a short-haired old man. He looked ordinary. His clothes were ordinary as well. And if he was thrown into a crowd, you would not be able to find him. Qiuji Jun was not surprised. He had seen a report of a quasi-fist saint living in seclusion in Scorpion Tiger Valley. He looked at Sima Xiao. Why did they attack Scorpion Tiger Valley? He could not remember how long it had been since he had such a strange feeling. Number 9278 on the Heaven Road list. Old Feng was extremely familiar with the information. We even gave him an extreme Earth Grey treasure weapon. His strength should be around 9,000. The sword in Crane's hand has not been unsheathed. Qiuji Jun's face congealed, but its grade is definitely not inferior to the Earth Wave Bear. I've already checked, Heavenly Crane Constellation does not have such a treasure. But someone found out that the sword on the ancestor of Crane's sect is extremely similar to the sword in Crane's hand. There is too little information on Ling Su, and we only know that he trains in the spear. This will be a tough battle, the single-armed swordsman said. Chapter 303. Tang, yes. Master. The war was imminent, but Lupus Constellation was actually in a rare tranquility. Bing looked at the cannon fodder in front of him, and for some reason, he was in a daze. Throwing the army to Uncle Bing, Tang Tian's heart calmed down. Hey, don't stare at me. It's not like I said it. Tang Tian immediately said, Now I will give you a chance to prove yourself. Liang Xiu politely replied to the clan elder. Thank you for your trouble, clan elder. We are already prepared. The elder's indifferent voice sounded out in everyone's ears. The light aura beneath their feet exploded, and their vision immediately turned white, while the light aura beneath their feet quickly became one. Inside the distorted and chaotic air flow, the light aura was like a door, slowly opening up. That's right, I was goading you. Tang Tian admitted it like a hoodlum. But this is not for me. You are fighting for yourself. Anyway, the one being mocked is not me. TSK, the dignified chief instructor of the Southern Cross Army, to actually fall to such a state. Hey, uncle, can you swallow this down? Lupus tribe. This was Tang Yi's regret. He did not know much, but the desert Lupus tribe in front of him were able to endure hardships and persevere. To him, they were the best soldiers. The sky was clear, it was quiet and peaceful. Gather. I'm going to see him again. The cannon fodder that I have built are definitely not ordinary cannon fodder. These sons of the desert had perseverance, far surpassing ordinary people. He looked at the army in front of him and did not say a word. Tang Tian waited calmly. Were the flags of that time still fluttering? Were the smoke of that time still blackening the sky? The brave people of that time had all turned into mud. The kings of that time did not even leave behind a sound. Crane and Ling Su were in closed-door training, and Tang Tian was also in closed-door training. He needed these 2 days to maintain a relatively excited state, to welcome the difficult battle. A total of 200 sets, all used for this cannon fodder army. The other three looked at each other. Time seemed to have passed. The moment the two family 6 guards arrived at Lupus Constellation, the news quickly spread. Tang Tian rolled his eyes. You could just conjure up a few experts for me. Are you ready? An elder with a face full of wrinkles like ravines asked. Tang Yi. Bing suddenly spoke. Hee, you're indeed honest. Suddenly, a dazzling crack of white light lit up. Then, rays of white light shot out from the crack of light like swords. The white light that gushed out was so dense that it was dazzling. Your delivery location is about 200 li away from the Lupus tribe. You only need 4 hours to get there. The elder glanced at them. If you're ready, I'll start the delivery. So, Tang Tian said proudly, you will lead this army. Bing looked at the cannon fodder expressionlessly. Yes, this subordinate has already tested it. If there are more than 3 people, they will become chaotic. Tang Yi's attitude was very strict. With that, he turned around and left. You will be the vice general and lead 50 people. The awakening reagent was just a supporting method. Tang Tian felt that the most underestimated was the army. Tang Yi's motley crew was able to kill one and injure the other of the 2 Heaven Road list experts in one move. Tang Tian believed that in Bing's hands, they would definitely be able to unleash an astonishing power. Bing encouraged Tang Yi with a smile. Quickly go. Suddenly, the 4 of them had a change in expression. They were truly cannon fodder, but their coordination was much better than before. A white light door appeared in the sky. Ancient wolf tribe? Never heard of it. We never had any dealings with small shrimps in the past. Bing's face was full of arrogance, causing Tang Tian to have the urge to step on his face. The identities of the 2 family 6 guards were quickly revealed. The entire Lupus constellation was in an uproar, followed by a collective speechlessness. The local powerhouses who were initially restless after the death of the 3 heads immediately retracted their movements. No one dared to show their heads at such a time. In the desert, about 30 m above the ground. 3 people. Bing pondered. They're training very hard. Tang Yi said, there's an ambush. They have been training the umbrella tactics for the past 2 days. Interrupting a good show, the 4 of them felt their hearts sink. After a long while, he then squeezed out a sentence. Your bullshit reagent, it better be useful. The effect is obvious. There are pros and cons. Tang Yi hesitated for a while. If it is a small team of 3, their coordination is very good. They can sense each other. It should be the awakening of the ancient wolf tribe's blood meridians. This blood meridians is truly suitable for the army. Give them another 3 years, and this army will definitely become very strong. But as long as there are more people, this connection will become very chaotic. They are still unable to adapt. In this period of time, their fighting strength is actually declining. Bang! All right. Han Bingbing lowered his eyebrows and held onto his sword. His expression was calm. Only the hand holding onto the sword hilt was trembling slightly. All of them were actually rushing towards Fundamental Tang and the rest. Don't use such childish methods to provoke me. Bing looked at Tang Tian coldly. The 4 figures flew out of the light door. The light door quickly closed behind them and disappeared. Who are you guys? Amari asked curiously. Liang Qiu's calm voice came out from the light door. No. Bing shook his head. I think that your strategy is rather good. If even I can't guess it, then others can't either. The only thing I have to worry about is that they are not up to the task. One could almost imagine that Tang Tian's situation was not good. A cold voice came out. A few figures appeared around them. Liang Qiu's face changed. His expression became gloomy. Countless of thoughts flashed past his mind. The opponent actually knew where they would appear. There was a traitor. Honorable Martial Alliance. Especially when he saw the flag that Tang Yi was holding, he was stunned. Bing stopped in his tracks. Without turning his head, he said, take care of yourself. Bing did not know. He had already spun a few rounds under Tang Tian's feet. He curled his lips. You actually placed your hopes on this group of cannon fodder. That really surprised me. Not knowing why, she was a little nervous. Bing's poker face darkened. Just because I said it, they can say it? Ha ha! Imoli laughed heartily. So even you can make such a mistake. I thought only a lively and upright man like you would make such an honest mistake. Waha! Sima Gui's cold gaze looked around. It was as though he wanted to devour someone. Of course, Although Tang Tian did not have much confidence in his heart, his words were firm. Do you know about the ancient jackal race? They're a relatively powerful race. Although the blood meridians in their bodies are mixed up, the majority of them are still the jackal race. And himself. That's right. They are important people. They are not country bumpkins like us. How can they be easily intimidated by an army? Tang Tian glanced at Bing. Furthermore, even you said that they are cannon fodder. Huh, this lively martial man can't wait any longer. A Maori clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He was like a wild beast with excess energy. He was extremely excited. Then let's go. Let's go. As expected of cannon fodder. Yes. Tang Yi's indifferent eyes flashed with a trace of excitement. To be able to be the master's assistant general was an honor. Even as a gold-rank staff sergeant, it was something that he did not even dare to think about. Pa. Who we are is not important. But I advise you guys to stay here. Don't disturb the show. The leader's gaze was cold. As long as you guys are honest and cooperate, everyone will be fine. When the two family 6 guards stepped onto the desert, everyone knew that the decisive battle was about to begin. The 4 of them stood in a straight line. Each of them had a circle of light beneath their feet. Tang Tian explained. With your strength, if you were to fight alone, you can handle one person. But they still have more people than us. And these fellows are not comparable to the person that Tang Yi killed the last time. When I interacted with them this time, I could feel that they have some restraining fear towards this army. But more than that, they did not think much of it. Are you sure that this thing is useful? Bing's poker face was filled with suspicion. The more he thought about it, the more pleased he became. When other people talked about his army, they were only surprised at its appearance and not at its strength. They thought that Tang Yi was the one commanding the army, but they would never have thought that the one commanding it was the stronger Bing. The 4 of them landed at the same time. A Maori looked around. Hey, which direction are we going? The two family 6 guards entered Lupus constellation. They did not want to attract attention, but they had wrongly estimated the situation. Crane and Ling Su's 2 battles were too sensational. Countless eyes were staring at Lupus constellation. Tang Tian looked at Bing's back that was brimming with killing intent and suddenly shouted, Hey, uncle, you can do it. But it was a pity that time was too short. I understand. Bing nodded his head. The intense energy undulation caused the air to be in a mess. The air within the radius of a few li was completely disrupted. The violent wind blew the sand, covering the sky and covering the sun. Only the light crack was clear. The 4 of them immediately understood. How's the awakening reagent? Bing asked. Only the stars in the sky were looking down at the earth day and night. Bing was also startled. Disapproving, Bing's eyebrows twitched. Although Bing kept saying that they were cannon fodder, but the army was still personally built by him. Hearing that they were being looked down upon, he was immediately unhappy. Ever since Tang Yi's shocking blade, one of the 2 Heaven Road list martial artists died, and the other was injured. Such a shocking result. Not only did it cause them to be filled with fanatical worship for Tang Yi, it also made them realize that the army that they were training was extremely strong. Even without Tang Yi's urging, everyone was training with all their might. All the awakening reagents were made by Old Man Fei overnight, and every ingredient was bought at a high price in Yong'an City. Bing's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Umbrella tactic? Tang Yi was startled. It was a relatively simple basic tactic and was the basis of many other tactics. After a while, he was enlightened. His mind was roused. I guarantee that I will complete the mission. The surging and berserk energy undulation produced a shockwave that spread out in all directions. The sand that was originally swept up by the airflow was swept away. The scene of sand and stones flying around suddenly disappeared. Uncle Bing was right. He had to take care of himself. Chapter 304. A bit like a battle tribe, Bing was slightly surprised and immediately fell into deep thought. Perhaps, one day, he would die in battle. His indifferent face became calm again. But no matter how much he inhaled the smoke, there was no reaction. Yaya became angrier and suddenly rushed into the smoke. Ling Su's hand stopped and immediately laughed out loud, with a heroic spirit. After this battle, you will have to cultivate. How is it? Are you afraid? He did not know what other people were thinking, but for the upcoming battle, he only had anticipation and excitement. Every short and intense battle, he would always have a different understanding. That feeling of burning his life made him deeply intoxicated. In the troops, there were their own children. Among the crowd, there were people who could not help but cry. Ling Su wiped off the medicine on his body and carefully wrapped himself with bandages. No one laughed, and no one spoke. The entire tribe was filled with an indescribable pressure. Everyone in the tribe came out from their own homes to send off the troops. Yaya suddenly turned his head. The tears in his eyes had disappeared completely, and his eyes flashed with an ominous glint. The three small mechanical beasts suffered different degrees of damage, and Sai specially made a new body for them, which was even more valiant. The tyrant Sai was now very generous, and gave the three little rascals a ridiculously high configuration. Flamingo's deep dark red eyes stared at him. Suddenly, it bent its neck and lightly rubbed its head on Ling Su's arm. Yaya's little head was like a chicken pecking at rice. It stuck out its chest and raised its head, trying its best to display a strong appearance. And behind it, the three little rascals stood neatly in a row, all raised their heads. A few of the soldiers in the army could not help but have their eyes turn red. In fact, they also knew their hope of winning this battle was actually extremely slim. A bright red flame emerged from Flamingo's body, blazing and reckless. In that moment, the wild flame filled Ling Su's vision. The flame gradually converged. The bright red flame was cold and silent. Flamingo's eyes became dark red, like an extremely dense flame. These tough men who were born in the desert were already used to fighting. Moreover, if they won this battle, they would win everything. Tang Tian lowered his head. Yaya was grabbing onto his trousers, her eyes wide open. Behind it were three little followers, the bronze goat, bronze tortoise, and bronze squirrel. He was an idiot. Following by Tang Tian's side, he was constantly under immense pressure. Tang Tian's jaw-dropping improvement speed made every proud and arrogant genius feel as though there was a dagger behind their backs. He was like that, and so was Ling Su. They didn't need anyone to spur them on at all. The two of them didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest and cultivated with all their might. Feng Chao's head floated over, and he asked curiously, "Young Tang, aren't you wearing your glasses?" The smoke didn't seem to notice and proudly said, "What's the use of staring at me? You guys just stay here obediently and don't drag us down. You little dolls, the battlefield is not a place for you guys to go." Thinking about the past, he was truly a frog at the bottom of a well. He thought that after obtaining the crane body energy, in front of him, it was a smooth road, and if he trained diligently, he would be able to reach the heights of his ancestor. Only now did he know how naive he was in the past. If not for him signing the martial spirit contract with Tang Tian, he would definitely not be able to reach the realm he was today. The smoke snorted disapprovingly. "Don't waste your energy, Bud Spirit General. If I did not seal myself up, killing you would be as easy as killing an ant." They were very clear what kind of battle Tang Tian and the rest were facing. If not for Tang Tian, Crane knew that he would not be so hardworking. His hands held onto the crane sword that was placed on his knees. The simple and unadorned wooden sword sheath had no patterns, only traces of time. No one would have thought that under the simple and unadorned sword sheath would actually be a gold saint sword. Yeah. Yaya's little mouth flattened even more. Like a wave shaking his head, tears were about to fall. Yaya's eyes glowed fiercely. Whoosh! He brought the three little fellows and immediately surrounded the smoke. In the darkness, the aura around his body suddenly burst out. The wind dispersed in all directions. His jet black hair fluttered, and the wooden boards in the quiet room suddenly burst open. He could not help but think of Tang Tian. His calm and emotionless face could not help but reveal a trace of a smile. The three little fellows also uniformly turned their heads, and stared at the smoke. Its little fellows were completely stunned. Thinking about the time when he was in the sect, he was already the most hard-working person in the sect. If he were to return to the sect after learning the crane body energy, he was afraid that he would forever be the frog at the bottom of the well. Yaya had a huge change. The armor on his body was even brighter. He carried a small bow and arrows on his back, a small flag stuck on his, but indistinctly had a ball of mist churning like a blurred word. Tang Tian did not know that when he rejected Yaya, it would cause such a series of reactions. All his attention now was completely focused on the battle that was about to begin. Ling Su laughed out loud, flipped over and sat on the bird's back, picked up the silver spear, and rushed out of the room like a gust of raging fire. Yaya acted as though he did not hear it, and breathed with all his might. He stood up. When he walked out of the room, he realized that everyone was already waiting for him, and immediately laughed. Ayaya, everyone's speed is quite fast. Really? It's really true. Feng Cho was surprised. Tang Tian's red and blue eyes had indeed become extremely faint. If one did not pay attention, one would not be able to tell. Tang Tian shook his head. This time, the person is too powerful. You guys better stay here obediently. Ling Su laughed at himself. Recalling the handwritten scroll that his grandmaster left behind, he finally understood why his grandmaster, when he was young, traveled everywhere from the distant ancient East to this place. It was this long journey that allowed his grandmaster to gradually grow and have all the achievements he had. Heavenly Crane had hibernated for too long. In meditation room, there was not a single ray of light. It was as dark as ink. A pair of eyes slowly opened. Clear and calm eyes, without a ripple like an ancient well, had an indescribable peace. This was the first time Flamingo used a 7th level star rock. And in this period of time, the many new techniques that she had developed were all used on them. This was purely out of habit. After finishing, he immediately threw them to the side, as though he had no time to bother with them. The 3 little fellows naturally followed Yaya. Wearing the golden threaded white robe, he did not know what material the white robe was made of. It was sturdy and comfortable and did not affect his battle. Although it had been many years, but it looked brand new. He changed Flamingo's new 7th level star rock. For this bitter battle, the expensive star rocks were all used. He finally understood why there were so many martial artists who cherished the danger of losing their lives and continued to challenge others. Because only in between life and death, a person's potential could truly burst forth. And only in an intense battle could one know one's own shortcomings. His expression was focused, meticulous. Everyone's face was solemn and solemn. In their eyes, the 2 family 6 guards were far-away, strong martial artists. Even the 3 big shots of Lupus constellation in front of them were like children. He continued to speak mysteriously. Also, I have a very powerful discovery. His silver palm gently caressed Flamingo's body. Ha, you're excited. Recruit barracks. Just like the Bud Spirit General, it opened its mouth and started to suck in the black smoke with all its might. Who? Humph. Don't tell me you guys still want to fight with me? Overestimating yourselves. The smoke snorted. Hee, I can't say. Tang Tian shook his head seriously like a rattle drum. I plan to give them a big surprise. All right, the moment before the battle, to recall such shameful things, was a blow to their morale. Ling Su could feel the excitement from Flamingo. Crane meditated for a full 3 days. This was not something that could be replaced by daily training and pure thinking. Tang Tian was dumbfounded, but thinking about how tough the battle would be, he definitely did not have the time to take care of these rascals. He hardened his heart and firmly shook his head. No, you guys stay here obediently. The identity of the 2 family 6 guards had long spread throughout Lupus constellation. Seeing that the morale of the army did not drop, but instead rose slightly, Tang Tian could not stand it anymore and could only escape. Tang Tian used all his strength to jump and immediately became extremely happy. Ayaya, I am so full of energy today. I must definitely beat them to a pulp. The battles that he had experienced along the way were like pieces of grindstones polishing his sword, making it even sharper. Feng Chou and the three rascals were completely stunned. Feng Chou's surprise made Tang Tian even more pleased. This godlike young lad, is so strong. Yaya's face was pitiful, his chubby little hands gesturing. His clear eyes lit up with a cold aura. Ha 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 ha! You little trash. You also want to participate in the battle. Don't embarrass yourselves. You are too weak, so weak that you can only be slaughtered by others. The smoke came out with a mocking tone. Every detail of the battle with Wu Taiyu kept rolling in his mind, repeatedly appearing, and he kept digesting and summarizing. Yaya's mouth flattened, and tears immediately flowed out. The smoke came out with a panicked and angry roar. He killed Wu Taiyu. It was extremely dangerous. Wu Taiyu underestimated the crane sword in his hand. When the earthen wave bear was restrained by the crane sword, Wu Taiyu's face was filled with shock. These few days, he constantly thought about every scene and benefited a lot, far beyond his imagination. But very quickly, the elders in the tribe started to encourage him loudly. Yaya was completely enraged. Its little eyes were like a wild beast. It was the lowest level bud spirit general. After continuous nourishment, it felt that its body was different from before. But at this time, it completely forgot about everything else. Its instincts had taken over its body. Flamingo looked at Ling Su with a look of disdain. What discovery? Feng Chou was stunned. But no matter what, it has to be after I complete my own wish. But by his side, you will never be afraid. You will never be afraid. And then follow him to do some stupid things. Thinking about that, even Crane, who was indifferent, had the urge to facepalm. I'm not wearing it anymore. Tang Tian happily turned his face and moved his face closer. Look, it's getting lighter again. These few days, I finally figured out how to control these two eyes. You want to fight too? Tang Tian squatted down, his face surprised. Chapter 305. To actually leave Crane alone to protect the army, that was truly amateurish. The two family six guards truly lived up to their name. Single Blade, who was by her side, had a cold gaze. He was sprinting in an extremely strange manner. His body was slanted to the right, forming an extremely small angle with the ground, as though he was about to fall at any time. His arm drooped down. The blade tip just happened to touch the ground. The opponent's army was undoubtedly the biggest weakness. To tangle with Tang Tian and the other two to get rid of the army, and then form the advantage of 6 against 3. While sprinting, Meng Wei unsheathed the sword at her waist. The gold light aura, with an astonishing speed, continuously converged onto the sword in her hand. In a breath of time, the dense gold light aura on her sword was like a layer of gold liquid, flying like a sharp sword, slicing the air apart. Everyone was waiting for the honorable martial alliance to make their move. What did Tang Tian and the rest count as? In their hearts, Tang Tian and the rest would definitely lose. The only thing that made them interested was when the honorable martial alliance would make their move. That would be the climax that made them excited. They did not believe that the honorable martial alliance would let Tang Tian be killed by Onyx Soul for no reason. Meng Wei said coldly, I am not worried about Old June 2 and Single Blade, but the three of you, to deal with an army, be careful. Meng Wei and Single Blade welcomed Tang Tian and Ling Su. Meng Wei's expression turned cold. The original plan, I will deal with Tang Tian, Single Blade will tangle with Ling Su, and Old June 2 will lure Crane away. The three of you get rid of the cannon fodder and end the battle quickly. 300 million star coins, to them, was a huge sum. Looking down from the sky, they would see a strange scene. The 20 li of the battlefield was empty, and at the outer perimeter of the battlefield, sand dunes rose up from the ground, forming a circular belt of sand dunes. Meng Wei could feel everyone's pressure and said indifferently, That is the best. We can finish this battle in one go. That was Meng Wei's tactic, simple and effective. They want to step on our shoulders. The one-armed blade man said coldly. The battle between armies and martial artists was a game of numbers. The individual combat power of a martial artist far surpassed that of an ordinary soldier. They had an extremely strong advantage in certain areas. Furthermore, they were more agile and often took the initiative. And the advantage of an army was that they had more people and their overall strength was more solid. Seeing the chaotic enemies, Meng Wei and the rest relaxed even more. If there was an army, the experts would stand guard around the army. Armies had the advantage in positional warfare, but advancing armies, to experts, were simply full of flaws. A fiery red figure was the first to rush out. Ling Su couldn't hold back any longer. All the scouts shook their heads at the same time. In the various constellations, many people who were watching the battle shook their heads as well. An army that had lost the protection of experts was extremely weak. She said calmly, "The elder prepared a bounty of 2 billion star coins for the 6 of us." From their point of view, Tang Tian and the others were just a fuse. No one believed that they could defeat the 2 family 6 guards. "Is everyone ready?" Tang Tian asked in a deep voice. His eyes were filled with excitement. Xiao Jun was stunned. "Hiss, that's very possible." The amethyst lady laughed. "If they win us, the southern sky's 42 constellations, this small pond, will not be able to keep them. Even if they go to the northern sky, they can still have a place." Both parties stopped at the same time and faced each other. Junior brother has always been arrogant and has no one in his eyes to actually say such words. "Then we will kill them all." Manju, who was like an iron tower, said fiercely. Old Feng laughed. "Big sister, you're looking down on us. What army? It is enough to scare the amateurs. It is just those 2 idiots who will go head first. At the very most, this broken army has only been formed for 2 months. To be able to train up an army in 2 months, that army is too worthless." Guess what these people did in the past? They are all ordinary martial artists in the tribe. I reckon they were just bandits before. As expected, it was as they expected. Halfway through, Meng Wei and the other 5 suddenly split into 2 groups. In the sky and on the ground around the desert, many people were watching the battle. All the martial artists who originally wanted to witness Wu Taiyu's glory were all focused on the world-shocking battle. The 2 family 6 guards were infamous. In front of Old Feng and the other 2, ordinary Heaven's Road grade martial artists were unable to pose any threat. The 3 of them were people who had been through battles for a long time and had rich experience. Against such a cannon fodder army, it was extremely easy, and he did not advance in a straight line, but from start to finish he moved in a slight arc, leaving behind a wave-shaped long blade mark on the sand behind him. "They want to fight a decisive battle with us," Old Feng said. "Yeah, Elder is really generous this time." The amethyst lady laughed. Crane sighed helplessly. These 2 rascals, when can they be more reliable? Meng Wei's gaze was the first to land on the army. Her face was calm, but her heart heaved a sigh of relief. Old Feng was right. The army was truly nothing to be afraid of. There were only 200 people, and their military formation was average. The troops were loose and disorganized, and the soldiers' movements looked extremely jerky. Bing's poker face was expressionless, and he waved his hand. "Advance." No one cared about him. One was biting cold and sharp. The other was strange and unpredictable. The front and back were disjointed. All of these star treasures were usually not eye-catching, but at that moment, they were extremely useful. But the opponent knew of their background and still dared to put on a decisive battle stance. That was enough to prove that the opponent was confident in his own strength or had other methods. Such a lucky young man. The amethyst lady's eyes lit up. If only I had met him earlier. Although they spoke casually, but in their hearts, they did not dare to underestimate him. The local martial artists of Lupus Constellation were all confused. They did not understand what they were doing. All of the martial artists were powerful, and their efficiency was terrifying. After a while, a sand dune that was over 50 m tall rose from the ground, and they flew to the top of the sand dune and looked towards the center of the battlefield. The army slowly advanced. They had followed Turu Hai for many years, and no one was clearer than them of the elder's temper. Taboo in the battlefield. Meng Wei calmed down. The army that suddenly appeared was the biggest worry in her heart, and was also the most uncertain factor in the entire battle. Now that the biggest uncertain factor was eliminated, her last worry was also eliminated, regardless of which, to them, it was not a good thing. Hey, don't think of me as a petty person. Sima Xiao laughed. This is just a small test. If you cannot even pass this, then you do not have the qualifications to be my opponent. Tang Tian did not care. He raised both of his arms. Wah Wu, go, go, go. Two completely different styles, but the impact it gave people was equally strong. The local martial artists of Lupus Constellation were naturally dumbstruck. They did not expect that their first move would be so astonishing. Even the scouts from the higher level constellations were all attracted by the two's astonishing aura. Regardless if it was Tang Tian, Ling Su, or Meng Wei's group, they were all as fast as lightning. The astonishing speed caused countless of Lupus Constellation martial artists to exclaim, and the scouts sent by the powerhouses were even stronger and more knowledgeable. Their gazes coincidentally landed on the army. The blade tips sliced through the sand, releasing a bone-chilling sound. Manju laughed foolishly. We are going to be rich this time. The amethyst lady burst out laughing. So, it is that kind of army, it makes my heart tremble. The matters outside the battlefield did not distract the two parties. The Heaven Road list of 9,000 strong martial artists to the Lupus Constellation was an unreachable existence. Countless eyes were fixated on the battle. How long had it been since such a battle attracted the attention of others? There had never been a battle that made them feel so pressured. Losing, not mentioning the damage to their reputation, Wu Taiyu's death had already caused the clan elders to lose face if there were any accidents in the battle. If the Honorable Martial Alliance were to make a move, then it would be a clash between two top-notch martial artists. Suddenly, Meng Wei raised her head. Following that, a few others also sensed it and immediately kept quiet, raising their heads to look into the distance. The others were enlightened and followed suit. This was a battle that they had to win, Qiu Jun said indifferently. Although they messed up your plans, your revenge is too fast, isn't it? Isn't this what they call hatred does not last overnight? Old Feng laughed, but the spirit general at the front has some standards, 8th level Grandmaster Grey Blade techniques. I never thought that he would be proficient in military formations. Such a spirit general, I wonder where did Tang Tian get him from? Meng Wei had not finished speaking and was the first to rush out. The other 5 were like arrows that left the bow, whooshing out. The other few people's faces congealed. They did not know much about the enemy, a group of new recruits. All the information was limited. Their intelligence was not weak, but the useful information they had was pitiful. Everyone's spirits were roused. 2 billion star coins. Meng Wei 500 million. The other 5, 300 million each. With such a huge reward, there would definitely be brave people. Everyone immediately became excited. The army's advancement speed was not slow, but in the battlefield, it was like a tortoise. Among the spectating martial artists, there were many scouts from the big powerhouses. Star treasures continuously lit up with light auras. All of them came prepared. With the star treasure of Telescope Constellation, it allowed them to be 20 li away and still be able to capture every detail of the battlefield. With the star treasure of Altar Constellation, this type of treasure was able to transmit everything that was happening in front of them to a faraway place. Tang Tian saw that Ling Su was actually faster than him and shouted, "I'm here." Tang Tian and the rest were here. The martial artists of Lupus Constellation were all drooling. Star treasures like this were not only uncommon, but were extremely expensive, and ordinary martial artists would not even buy them. Compared to the country bumpkins of Lupus Constellation, the martial artists that came from a higher level constellation were much richer. Sima family. Sima Xiao looked at the silver-ranked Heaven's Mirror altar on the table, his mouth revealing a pleased smile, and muttered to himself, full of playfulness, "I have helped you block the helpers. It is such a good opportunity. Don't disappoint me, young lad Tang." They all took out their tools and immersed themselves in digging. On the sand dune, it was densely packed with people. Chapter 306. Meng Wei's Blood Meridians comes from one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, Cetus constellation, white whale blood. Fatty Bai took a deep breath. That is a genuine equatorial palace hall, silver blood, a constellation blood meridian that possesses the power of a constellation and is not just a name. Her strongest point is her power, the power of the white whale. A pity she has not completely activated her blood meridians. If not, with the power of the whale, who could stop her? I've seen your sword techniques. The wind was like a knife, cutting his face. His heart was like a fire without fear. Yeoman City. Fatty Lee and Mo Tian were watching the battle. Under the dazzling sunlight, the perspiration-covered face had a heart-palpitating calmness. Sima Xiao suddenly laughed. Why was he worrying for Tang Tian? He suddenly asked curiously, "Senior brother, if you meet her, what can you do?" The smile on Sima Xiao's face disappeared, and his face became gloomy. Tang Tian's mouth twitched with difficulty. He laughed. It was extremely ugly. He lowered his head and closed his eyes, as though he was recovering his strength. Bang! So the strongest opponent was only like this. If not for his astonishing intuition and his strength being stronger than most people, he would have long died under Meng Wei's sword. Meng Wei was like a leech, one sword after another. Her sword techniques were simple and unadorned, simple and clean, but her strength was extremely terrifying. The golden light enveloping the sword body was a smokescreen. No one would have thought that such a petite body would actually possess such terrifying strength. The scariest thing was her hands. As though they were broken, she could not feel them at all. Who? Sima family. There were many different types of blood meridians, but the truly exquisite ones were split into 3 schools: constellation blood meridians, ancient blood meridians, and new blood meridians. Ancient blood meridians were the blood meridians passed down from the ancient fighting races. The ancient races had experienced countless of generations of reproduction, intermarriage, and the blood meridians had become extremely mixed. The advantage was that the people would become smarter, but the disadvantage was that their fighting instincts had disappeared. The blood meridian specialists would continuously refine and search for ancient blood meridians, allowing the people to regain their fighting instincts. Don't look down on Tang Tian. Xiao Jun shook his head. Look carefully, although he is being suppressed, but he has not lost. His strength is not weak. His intuition is astonishing. His willpower is tenacious. You must not look down on him. Meng Wei raised the sword in her hand and placed it in front of her. Under the wave of suffocating attacks, just now, Tang Tian's outstanding intuition was displayed to the extreme. He did not activate the king peacock eyes. He wanted to see how strong this woman was. A dazzling light aura blossomed from Tang Tian's fingertips. The light aura that belonged to the fire scythe, Ghost Claw, once again shone brightly. Tang Tian's fighting spirit was boiling. His charging speed suddenly increased. The bleeding cat's scythe in his hands opened up, the faint cat's sob lingering around him. Xiao Jun's pale face frowned. This is not the right path. She relies on the power of her bloodline, and her comprehension of the sword is very ordinary. But Tang Tian did not know that the shock in Meng Wei's heart was no less than his. Mo Tian was speechless. Equatorial Palace silver blood. These 5 words caused his face to turn ashen. Tang Tian was completely stunned. The 2 family 6 guards are the 6 strongest martial artists that Tu Ru Hai personally created. In the beginning, there were 36 martial artists that were chosen, and in the end, there were only 6 left. For the 2 family 6 guards, Tu Ru Hai practically squandered all of his wealth. It's funny that I laughed at him for being stupid. I am as stupid as a pig. Meng Wei sensed something, and her heart jumped. He was known for his strength, and this was something that he was rather proud of. But the power that Meng Wei's sword body transmitted made him unable to defend. The clothes on his body were torn to shreds by the overflowing qi. Perspiration flowed down Tang Tian's face. He looked as though he was fished out from a river, the mist rising, releasing white qi. He opened his mouth wide, gasping for breath, allowing the perspiration to flow into his mouth. Bang! This was a terrifying process that lingered between life and death, but once one endured it, it would be a whole new world. The fire scythe ghost claw clashed with the opponent's sword. Tang Tian's heart thumped. Not right. The immense power caused the 10 tall sand dune to explode. The scene of hundreds of tons of sand exploding like heavenly maidens scattering flowers was extremely spectacular. It was not only Meng Wei who sensed that something was wrong. Many people had already noticed Tang Tian, who was retreating step by step and was completely suppressed, but was bitterly holding on. Meng Wei counted in her heart. She had already released 31 swords. Now it's my turn. Such a powerful blood meridian. Isn't that an extreme earth-grade blood meridian? Sima Xiao was moved. Fatty Li continued. This Meng Wei is Tu Ruhai's most perfect creation. Out of the 36 people that were selected, Meng Wei was the weakest and only trained in the most superficial martial techniques. She was an orphan that Tu Ruhai picked up on the road and was only 11 years old at that time and was as skinny as a match. Tu Ruhai used his blood meridians and started to transform the 36 people. Very quickly, there were people who could not hold on and died. Following the continuous upgrade of the blood meridians, there were only 6 left. And Meng Wei, compared to the other 5, had one more round of transformation. Who would have thought that the little girl at that time would actually become the strongest? No, it's the Equatorial Palace Hall grade. Qiuji Jun's eyebrows relaxed, and once again became indifferent. 10 Equatorial Palace Halls. Only one constellation is known for its strength, Cetus constellation. This lady's chi is calm. Her gaze is clear. It should be the white whale blood. The white whale in the whale has a flawless heart. Sima Xiao was dumbstruck. What a barbaric girl. Senior brother, her sword techniques are so powerful. The Meng Wei in front of him did not know fatigue, sword after sword, was like a prehistoric monster. The uncle had said before, women were like Tyrannosaurus Rex that could spit fire. In the past, Tang Tian scoffed at this saying. But today, Tang Tian felt that the uncle was right. Other than Meng Wei not being able to spit fire, she was no different from a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Oh, I would like to hear the details. Mo Wei Tian's gaze did not move away from the screen and said. Mo Wei Tian saw that Tang Tian was completely suppressed and was so nervous that his palms were sweating. But hearing Fatty Li's words, he said, "Not necessarily. City Lord, do not be anxious." Mo Wei Tian was speechless. Meng Wei was like lightning. Her entire being was like a sharp sword. Cutting through the air, the sword in her hand was enveloped with a dense gold light aura. There had never been anyone who could block her 31 swords. It had to be said, Meng Wei's display of power and elegance completely suppressed Tang Tian. Direct and efficient. Without any sloppiness from start to finish, she had suppressed Tang Tian to the point that he could not even lift his head. There was no torrential downpour. It was just an ordinary sword after sword, but it was filled with a suffocating pressure. Tu Ruhai actually did such a thing? Mo Wei Tian's face turned green. Isn't Onyx Soul forbidden to do such things? Mo Wei Tian glanced at Fatty Li's physique and really wanted to say that he was actually a pig. Fatty Li said helplessly, Onyx Soul is a place where fish and dragons mix together. Now that there are so many clan elders, who cares about you? The one who did it was not Tu Ruhai alone. Furthermore, you and I are willing. Does blood meridians not need money? The two figures were like two dazzling bolts of lightning, clashing head-on. She is very smart, using strength to break technique, cutting off the branches and taking the trunk. Her power actually multiplied. Qiuji Jun said indifferently. It's a pity she does not have anyone to guide her, and her comprehension of the sword is too little. Meeting a true expert in sword techniques, she will be in trouble. The sword is based on strength. His eyelashes that were covered in sweat trembled, as though the door to another world was trembling. Cetus constellation was one of the 10 equatorial palace halls, and the majority of the constellation's power was in the hands of the constellation master. To be able to provide the silver-ranked, white whale blood, his position in Cetus constellation was definitely not low. Bit by bit, after experiencing the initial shock and panic, Tang Tian started to get used to the intensity of the attacks that he never dared to imagine in the past. So strong. And new blood meridians was a general term, referring to a few blood meridians specialists trying to fuse, mutate, and produce new blood meridians. These blood meridians were all blood meridians that had never existed before in history, so they were collectively called new blood meridians. But these blood meridians were, after all, artificial and usually had many unpredictable flaws. Thus, these blood meridians were not welcomed in the market, and no one dared to try them out. Tang Tian blocked left and right, swaying and tottering, as though he could collapse at any time, but after 31 swords, he did not fall. 1 sword, 2 swords, Tang Tian blocked them, and Meng Wei would think that he was lucky, but after 31 swords, even an idiot would not know that it was definitely not luck. Meng Wei stopped. She finally understood. She had underestimated Tang Tian. The intensity of the attack was unable to pose a threat to Tang Tian. Tang Tian was much stronger than she thought, but she had to stop here. That time in Yong'an City, the two of them did not exchange blows, and even the probing of qi was just a touch. But Tang Tian understood at that time that the lady was extremely strong. Meng Wei saw that Tang Tian did not show any signs of weakness and rushed over, showing that he wanted to fight head-on. Her cold eyes squinted, the cold aura like stars. In mid-air, her wrist trembled and the sword trembled. Tang Tian's eyes slowly opened. Tang Tian, who had suffered a heavy blow, flew out once again. His palms were in pain. Meng Wei's strength was 3 times that of Tang Tian. The terrifying and barbaric power came from the opponent's sword, and before Tang Tian could react, his entire being was like a ball that was struck by a wooden stick, becoming a straight shadow, and plunged into the sand dune. In a moment of desperation, Tang Tian's palms blocked in front of his face. That was the strongest enemy that he had ever met. That's good, that's good. Sima, Xiao patted his chest. With senior brother protecting me, I don't have to worry about my life and won't end up like Tang Tian. The incoming imposing aura caused Tang Tian to feel a sharp pain in his body. Fatty Li was slightly disappointed. Tang Tian can't do it anymore. Of the 2 family 6 guards, Meng Wei is the strongest. There is no more suspense. In mid-air, Tang Tian's bent body suddenly straightened up. He raised his head. Sparkling and translucent perspiration dripped onto the sand below him. Constellation blood meridians contained the power of the constellation, thus its power was strong. Living beings that lived in the constellation would receive the baptism of the constellation's power day and night, and had a certain chance of producing a constellation blood meridian. The more the constellation's power, the purer the constellation's blood meridian would be. So the generations of constellation masters all had extremely strong blood meridians. Their descendants had a high chance of inheriting the blood meridians. Pure physical strength, combined with simple sword techniques, Tang Tian's true power and martial techniques were completely defeated. Salty. Oh, could it be that Patriarch Mo thinks that Tang Tian still has a chance? Fatty Li was surprised. He immediately shook his head and sighed. He was angry and jealous. Tu Ruhai's life is good. Tu Ruhai and I are enemies, and I am clear of the situation of the 2 family 6 guards. Tang Tian clenched his teeth and endured. Every sword strike caused his entire body to tremble. All the muscles on his body trembled, and his skin seemed to be burning red. In the blink of an eye, his entire body was drenched in perspiration, as though he had just been fished out of the water. Tang Tian's mind was in a daze, his mouth full of sand, and before he could react, a sword aura pierced through the sand and appeared in front of him. Chapter 307. Single Blade's blade technique was light and agile. The changes were strange, causing Ling Su's heart to be secretly shocked. But his pointed sea spears was the nemesis of such blade techniques. The pointed sea spears were unchanging and were not affected by the opponent. Xiaofeng constellation was one of the ancient constellations that disappeared. If it was another constellation, Ouyang sure might not know, but Xiaofeng constellation was a constellation that every Aries constellation student knew, because the constellation that swallowed Xiaofeng constellation was Aries constellation. The pointed sea spears was like a swamp, faintly emitting a suction force. And, for some reason, every time the spear aura swept past, Single Blade's heart would suddenly feel an intense sense of danger. Xiaoji Jun's eyes released a bright light, his clothes fluttering without any wind. He slowly spat out 5 words. King Peacock Eyes. A lump of shadow gradually became clearer and thicker beneath his feet. Ling Su was taken aback. With a thought, Flamingo retreated backwards, his fingers moving continuously. In a flash, he laid out waves of spear auras in front of him. Hey, Zhuyan, what are you doing? Ouyang sure glanced at Zhuyan, who was watching the screen, with a face of surprise. Aren't you going to rest? You have a test in the afternoon. Single Blade's eyes flashed with a cold aura. He decided to end the battle quickly. This technique, Flock Blade Cloud, consumed a lot of energy, and Single Blade rarely used it. But he had never failed, and the only time it was broken through was by Big Sister Mengwei. Single Blade's second slash in front of him missed, and his heart was surprised. Most martial artists, if they were attacked from behind, their first reaction would be to move forward to get rid of the enemy. Ling Su had rich battle experience. Flamingo and his thoughts were linked and did not move forward, but instead fiercely jumped backwards. Ling Su suddenly realized Single Blade's figure was nowhere to be seen, and his face changed. Not good, above my head. I almost made a huge mistake. I definitely cannot be tricked by this asshole, but Ouyang Shi's face was covered in tears. He had actually forgotten that the person in front of him was a bookworm. His arm, with an extremely small tremble, countless tiny saber radiance, constantly gushed out from his saber body into the sparrow saber cloud. Ouyang Shi was stunned. He subconsciously shook his head. How is that possible? Wasn't Xiaofeng constellation swallowed by our Aries constellation? Hey, did you learn history for nothing? I have 1,000,000 star coins. As soon as the words left his mouth, Ouyang Shi even had the thought of finding a piece of tofu and knocking his head against it. If the top student doesn't take the exam, the teacher will chat a little. The saber cloud grew thicker and thicker. Single Blade's face revealed a strenuous expression. However, his gaze was firmly fixed on Ling Su. Zhuyin rattled off a bunch of things, directly knocking Ouyang Shi unconscious. Where is he? Ouyang Shi was a little tempted, but when he thought of the teacher in charge of the examination in the afternoon, his heart trembled. Shua. Single Blade was also startled. Knights like Ling Su usually walked the path of firm and fierce spear arts. Never had he imagined that Ling Su's spear arts would be fluid and full of tangled strength, which was so unconventional. As soon as the words left his mouth, Ouyang Shi immediately sobered up. He immediately regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. He said, "What I meant was Aries constellation." Ling Su's heart was beating wildly. Almost at the same time, he felt a chill behind his neck. It truly is the blood meridians of Xiaofeng constellation. What about the exam? Ling Su's heart suddenly trembled. The opponent's chi suddenly became erratic and light, and he was unable to lock onto it. B-Blade. This strange sense of familiarity came from nowhere. Ling Su dared to guarantee that it was the first time he had encountered such a strange blade technique. If Ouyang Shi did not take the exam, the teacher would beat him to death. Good. I'll go. I'm watching people fight. Zhuyin did not even turn his head. His appearance was delicate and pretty, with a bit of scholarly air. He hugged onto a bucket of popcorn and ate at the same time. There's only so much to do during the exam. Do you need a rest? A fine blade aura swept past his scalp. The ice-cold blade aura caused all the hairs on Ling Su's body to stand. A strand of silver hair on the back of his head was cut off and scattered into the air. Ling Su squinted his eyes and looked at Single Blade in front of him. Black and yellow intersecting B patterns covered Single Blade's entire body, making him look as though he was painted. A trace of suspicion flashed past Ling Su's heart. He did not know why, but the opponent's blade technique actually made him feel somewhat familiar. The dense blade aura that resembled a swarm of bees collided with the spear aura. The surface of the spear aura exploded with countless sparks. It shrunk by half, but it forcefully broke through Ling Su's pointed sea spears. How could a person's temperament change so much? Without thinking, Ling Su suddenly lowered his body and laid on Flamingo's back. Vermilion bee blade cloud. After breaking through 2 layers of spear screens, the fragmented blade aura finally disappeared. Ji Ling. Ouyang Shi's mind flashed with a beautiful figure. Meng Wei was indescribably shocked. The Tang Tian in front of her was brimming with dangerous qi. Ouyang Shi's heart palpitated, but he was still calm. His mind kept repeating, "Don't go, don't go." Lupus constellation. Zhuoyin did not notice the change in Ouyang Shi's expression. His attention was focused on the screen. It was his ice blue left eye. What exactly was that? Ling Su's situation was much better than Tang Tian's. Zhuoyin did not even look at Ouyang Shi. While stuffing popcorn into his mouth, he chattered incessantly. This is hailed as a battle that will change the entire situation. The entire world situation will change because of it. Your blood is boiling. Young man, if you miss this battle, it will be a lifetime regret. Meng Wei looked at Tang Tian in shock. Single blade descended at an extremely fast speed. The blade in his hand was raised up high. Countless of fragmented blade auras, like a swarm of black bees, surrounded his blade and whistled. Suddenly, Ouyang Shi thought about the opponent's identity as a scholar and felt that it was impossible for him to make such a low-level mistake. When he saw the one-armed blade artist on the screen, he could not help but exclaim out loud. "Oh!" Zhuoyan's reply made Ouyang Shi feel that he did not even hear his teachings. Just as Ouyang Shi was prepared to attack him again, Zhuoyan suddenly said, "Speaking of which, that guy holding the blade seems to have the blood meridians of Qiaofeng constellation." So fast, Zhuoyan heavily patted Ouyang Shi's shoulder, interrupting him. His face was filled with reverence as he looked at Ouyang Shi. As expected of senior Ouyang, his breadth of mind and boldness is definitely not something an ordinary student can compare to. Ideals, this is the greatness of ideals. Only a person like Senior is worthy of such a grand ideal. We will definitely return with great rewards. At that time, everyone will be shocked by our discoveries. Even Senior Ji Ling will be shocked and worshipped by Senior's achievements. She will definitely become Senior's most fanatical fan. Now we are only left with the simplest problem: travel expenses. We only need 600,000 star coins, and we will be able to realize this grand plan. Ling Su, who was below, for some reason, had a strange look on his face. I knew it. Senior is such a hero and will definitely not be overcautious and will definitely not be afraid to move forward. That is because Senior is a man of his word, and every spit he spits is a nail. Zhuoyan clapped his hands and said passionately, "Even this last obstacle has disappeared. Then what else can stop us from realizing this grand plan? There's no time to lose, Senior Ouyang. Let us set off now." Single Blade, who was descending from the sky, his eyes flashed with a stern look and fiercely slashed down. Huh! Ouyang Shi felt that he had finally found a chance to mock the top student and said earnestly, "Young lad, you must place your thoughts on the right path. Lupus constellation? What kind of countryside is that? And even cause a change in the structure of the world? Only we, the 12 ecliptic palaces, have the qualifications to say such words." Single Blade's figure disappeared again, but this time, Ling Su was prepared. He gently rubbed his fingers, and the pointed sea spears transformed into a ball-shaped spear screen, enveloping his entire body. On his face, a yellow and black pattern suddenly appeared, like the pattern on a bee's body. His expression immediately froze. Wait, what did I just say? In a faraway place, in a different corner, almost the same voice sounded out. Where did the battle take place? Ouyang sure asked, and hated himself for not living up to expectations. Tang Tian's left eye suddenly became azure blue, like an ice sapphire. Zhiyin and Ouyang sure did not notice that on the light screen behind them, Ling Su, who was looking up, had a weird look on his face. Right. Yin spoke very quickly. As fast as he spoke, he threw popcorn in his mouth. The popcorn formed a line, flying into his mouth, and said unclearly, Chow Phone Constellation, why don't we go and capture this guy to research? This kind of opportunity is not often seen. Our Aries constellation and Chow Phone Constellation have a deep relationship. Who knows, we might be able to find something interesting from inside. The pointed sea spears in his hands suddenly exploded like rain. Single Blade felt the temperature of the blood in his body dropping. His mouth curled into a cold smile, and the blade in his hand tightened. Before he could react, a fine blade aura suddenly appeared in front of him. Every blade aura was the size of a fingernail, but there were many of them, densely packed together, looking like a swarm of hornets. Countless cold auras flickered and interweaved. With one look, one could tell that it was filled with danger. Regardless of which angle Single Blade sneak attacked from, he would trigger his own spear screen. Single Blade did not chase. He needed to catch his breath. Ling Su's pointed sea spears were filled with a sticky suction force. If he was not careful, he would easily fall into it. It was his first time seeing such a strange spear technique. Exam? Such a good opportunity is right in front of you, and you're still thinking about exams? Don't tell me your heart is only so big. All right, I admit that I have misjudged you. At most, I'll be a month of hard labor. That is already the most severe punishment, senior. Think about it, using a month of hard labor to exchange for such a rare opportunity. What reason is there not to be willing? When Ouyang Shi's foot stepped out of the door, he immediately reacted. Suddenly, Ling Su's eyes constricted. Single Blade's right hand disappeared in the air. It was still the same face, clearly covered in sweat, but the bone-chilling cold indifference made it seem as though the young man in front of him had changed into another person. Ling Su's unexpected action gave him a chance to catch his breath. Both sides quietly faced each other. Go and die. Single Blade's figure suddenly disappeared. Sigh. King Peacock Eyes. Schwa. Pavo Constellation. Lang Yu, who was sitting in the palace watching the battle, suddenly stood up, staring at Tang Tian on the screen, his face filled with disbelief. King Peacock Eyes. Single Blade was scared witless. He knew that he could not continue like this. Chapter 308. Then what about Mom Yuri? It was Sima Zhao's first time hearing the song, and he felt that it was extremely fresh, but his senior brother did not mention Mama Yuri. By right, he should have exhausted all his energy, so how could he maintain such a high-intensity attack? Because he wanted to win. The astonishing chi flowed out. Meng Wei's hair fluttered, holding on to her sword. Her eyebrows were solemn, as though she was a goddess of war. Suddenly, Meng Wei felt a trace of fatigue and was surprised. She needed to focus even more to be able to defend against Tang Tian's attacks. If not for Tang Tian's true power, which was only at the 7th level, then she would have been in deep trouble. Meng Wei had some suspicions in her mind. Her sword force was extremely heavy, and after clashing with Tang Tian so many times, Tang Tian acted as though he was fine. Tang Tian's strength was not bad, but that was only to normal people. To her, he could not even withstand a single blow. The sense of danger came again. It was the demon king blazing firefly again. She was about to retract her sword and retreat. She immediately understood. It was Tang Tian's crafty attacks, causing her to be in a constant state of nervousness, and her mental state was starting to show signs of fatigue. After Tang Tian activated his strange blue eyes, the power of his attacks did not change much, but the threat increased by a large margin. It has happened in the past, but it is extremely rare. Qiu Jijun shook his head. The details have never been passed down. Let us first watch the battle. Pa pa pa. Suddenly, the star map of Cetus constellation appeared in the sky. A gentle light beam shot down from the sky, enveloping the sword in her hand. Was that Tang Tian's true intention? Meng Wei's expression was calm, but her heart was extremely cold. Both parties were fighting fast, causing people to be dazzled. Sparks exploded in front of Meng Wei, Tang Tian's blurred figure, flickering in and out of the flames. Meng Wei's expression was calm. The sword in her left hand did not slow down at all, and accurately struck Tang Tian's fire scythe ghost claw. Meng Wei was a decisive person. Once she made a decision, she would not hesitate, and retreated. Hearing his senior brother muttering to himself, Sima Xiao was surprised. Why can't Tang Tian train in it? The sword accurately struck onto Tang Tian's body, but the feeling of emptiness in her hands made Meng Wei realize that her sword had missed. Tang Tian's strength had actually reached such a formidable level. Burn, red eyes. An I-type martial skill with an inside attribute? So powerful. I want every victory. Eternal victory. You can take the power of a constellation. Sima Xiao was in disbelief. Tang Tian clenched his teeth and stared at Meng Wei. He wanted to laugh, but in the end, it was as if he was convulsing. This kind of predicament, such a strong enemy, did not make Tang Tian feel the slightest bit discouraged. On the contrary, he felt very excited, sincerely excited. Suddenly, 3 specks of light that resembled fireflies appeared at the bottom of her vision. It was the first time in Meng Wei's life that she felt so tired. Ding! Furthermore, this fellow had clashed with him so many times. How could he possibly still have any strength left? In midair, he suddenly took a step forward. His figure flashed, and he suddenly disappeared. No, I need to change this situation. Senior brother, what is the King Peacock Eyes? Sima Xiao turned and asked curiously, but it was rare to see his senior brother being so serious, and he felt that the matter was becoming more and more interesting. That was the demeanor of a true expert. Any strong martial artist, regardless of their fighting style, would never have a fatal weakness. But Tang Tian's heart did not have any ripples. He continued to change his figure, and under the King Peacock Eyes, the might of the wind, concealment steps, and fire scythe ghost claw was displayed to its fullest. In Tang Tian's ice blue vision, Meng Wei's aura was soaring at an astonishing speed. An extreme sense of danger enveloped his entire body, and his ice-cold state of mind had signs of becoming unstable. I'm that greedy. Qilu. The moment the sword in her hand clashed with Tang Tian's claw aura, she sensed that something was wrong. As expected, the sword suddenly bounced up. This was a sign that she had exhausted too much of her physical strength, and with Tang Tian's sharp battle senses, he would definitely be able to sense it. Surprisingly, Tang Tian did not chase after her. A series of sparks suddenly lit up in front of her eyes. Meng Wei's expression was normal, the sword in her left hand, brazenly thrusting forward. So it was like that. Qiu Zhijun's expression congealed even more. Tang Tian definitely used some method to snatch the constellation power of Pavo constellation. Because if he won, he would be praised by everyone. Because he won, he would be able to obtain a lot of wealth. Because he won, he could continue to go further. Because he won, he could continue to fight. The claw technique was extremely strange, but it was also ferocious and violent, an extremely brilliant claw technique. And his true power, from the initial ice cold, in the blink of an eye, had become even more ferocious and strange. The true power was like an intense spinning drill. Tang Tian laughed, revealing his snow-white teeth, and roared like thunder. Bang! I don't know if he's reliable. Hey, you must be reliable. Every time he pierced a light spot, a thread of ice-cold true power would enter the sore body. But what truly made Meng Wei feel troublesome was his freakish body technique. Pavo constellation. Sima Xiao suddenly thought of something and raised his head. I remember there was a piece of news a while ago saying that many of the treasures of Pavo constellation had dropped in rank. This matter caused a lot of panic, and many people thought that Pavo constellation was going to follow in the footsteps of Immortal constellation. The sword sliced through the air. The sword body contained a powerful force, causing the air that the sword body touched to shatter, giving people the illusion that the sword body was distorting. Once again it missed. There was no light aura, only pure power. Even the demon king, blazing firefly that was hidden inside, was not able to cause any trouble for Meng Wei. Every time her arm was about to freeze, she would change the sword to another hand. Why do I want to win? In Tang Tian's ice blue vision, Meng Wei, who was in front of him, did not have any flaws. Her sword techniques were simple and plain. She obviously knew her own strengths and weaknesses and was a perfect match. Meng Wei was not without flaws, but she knew how to protect her weaknesses. And Tang Tian's attacks, regardless of the angle or timing, were all amazing, causing Meng Wei to feel unwell. Why am I so excited? Why am I so happy? Why am I not afraid at all? Both of their gazes were back on the battlefield. Tang Tian, who was standing in the air with his hands by his side, emitted an ice-cold aura, indifferently looking at Meng Wei in front of him. His muscles were still aching, but at the moment, Tang Tian's heart was as cold as ice. The sensations in his body were directly cut off. Such a strong enemy. If he could defeat her, then he would definitely improve by a huge step. She would definitely become stronger. Her left and right hands were actually equally strong. Borrowing the King Peacock eyes, Tang Tian and Meng Wei were evenly matched. Xiao Jun regained his senses and explained, "The reason why the King Peacock eyes is so strong is because it is trained using the power of the constellation. To be able to use the power of the constellation is only the constellation master. This generation's Peacock master is Lang Yu, Pavo Constellation Saint Treasure. The peacock plume is in his hands, so I am curious, how did Tang Tian manage to train in the King Peacock eyes? This posture is so ugly. Wait till I become stronger. I will definitely change it. If I am defeated by the T-Rex, I will definitely be laughed at by the housefly cow." It talks about a type of martial technique. Xiao Jun's expression congealed. The legends say that the King Peacock eyes can see through all the techniques in the world. It should be a type of I-type martial technique. There are very few people who can successfully train in it, so it is impossible for Tang Tian to train in it. The sore body trembled, pa, accurately striking. Meng Wei shivered again. Her right hand felt as though it was about to freeze. An extreme sense of danger assaulted Meng Wei's heart. Without thinking, her wrist trembled, the clear and crisp sound of the air exploding. The long sword brought forth a blurred sword image and accurately pierced the three fireflies. Southern Sky 42, Phoenix Fire Armor, King Peacock Movement, Human Horse Amorous Spear, Heavenly Crane leaves the east, persevering like a jackal wolf. Xiao Jun said indifferently, "There are not many people who remember this ballad. Even I do not remember it completely. It talks about the Southern Sky 42, the strongest of each constellation. Phoenix Fire Armor, the strongest part of the Phoenix, is their fire-type armor. Their fire armor is tyrannical and powerful. Many Northern Sky Great Armors cannot compare to it. Centaur God Spear refers to the Centaurus constellation. The martial artists of the Centaurus constellation are most proficient in throwing spears, throwing like the wind, and they are naturally romantic, open-minded. The founder of the Heavenly Crane constellation, Crane's spiritual master, came from the East. Their martial techniques formed their own school and is different from the other constellations. Persevering like a jackal wolf, Lupus constellation's environment is harsh and barren, nurturing the Lupus people's persevering character. In the Southern Sky 42, no one can compare to them. Wind concealment steps. It was as though there was something sleeping in her body that was gradually awakening. She did not like the feeling. The blood in her body was boiling. She raised her sword and bellowed, "White whale, bestow me this sword." Such a ferocious T-Rex. Uncle was right. Such a ferocious creature. Could it be that Uncle did not marry because of this suddenly east, suddenly west, rushing forward and suddenly retreating? His body seemed to be able to change direction at any time, completely going against common sense. This allowed Tang Tian to attack from any angle. Meng Wei had no choice but to focus and deal with Tang Tian's unpredictable attacks. Unexpectedly, Tang Tian released the King Peacock eyes, and the blue left eye quickly became dim. The terrifying cold chi around his body suddenly disappeared, and the previously blocked pain and fatigue surged forth like a tide. Tang Tian groaned and almost fainted. He clenched his teeth and endured, but his face was distorted, looking extremely sinister. Only then did Meng Wei see Tang Tian's situation clearly, and her heart relaxed. Tang Tian was completely drenched, perspiring profusely, although the expression on his face was still ice-cold. But the perspiration and flushed face, the heavy breathing, the slightly trembling arms, all showed that he was already an arrow at the end of its flight. Such a strong enemy. If he could defeat her, it would definitely be satisfying. Tang Tian laughed bitterly in his heart. He used all his strength and opened up his arms. Tang Tian's entire body was trembling, looking like a broken scarecrow trembling in the wind. Meng Wei's eyes shrunk. She flipped her wrist, and the sword in front of her suddenly slashed horizontally. Meng Wei suddenly realized that she was holding onto an ice sword. It was extremely cold. She shivered and almost could not hold onto the sword. But her body was extremely strong. She clenched her teeth and endured it, and stabbed behind her. I never thought that I would have to use that move. Meng Wei did not look down on him. The Tang Tian in front of her had already given her too many surprises. Demon King Blazing Firefly. Chapter 309. The formation of the troops behind Bing was extremely weird. One after another, they formed an umbrella shape and converge around him. A blade aura whizzed past, causing the three of them to jump in fright and immediately dodge to the side, pulling apart the distance. He could not help but turn his head, his gaze landing on the figure covered in black flames. Harboring such suspicions, the Lupus army had attracted a lot of attention from start, especially when people saw that the one leading the army was a spirit general. They became even more curious. It seemed that every constellation had a possibility. Leo constellation was famed for fire, although black flames were rarely seen, but in Leo constellation, the probability of it appearing was considerable. Sagittarius constellation also had arrow flames, and Scorpio constellation had a higher probability of producing black flames. The blood meridians that Tu Ruhai had come into contact with, the highest level was the Equatorial Palace Hall silver meridians. As for higher levels, he could only imagine. Even the generals who were paying attention to this battle couldn't help but be shocked. The spirit general was truly indulging in fantasy to actually come up with such a weird formation. Using a spirit military general to deal with the battle already made everyone feel that Tang Tian wanted to give up on the army, and for the spirit military general to come up with such a weird formation, everyone felt that it was a joke. Luckily, that was not his original intention. He had countless battle formations and knew that to rely on this motley crew to win was extremely difficult, and conventional methods would definitely not work. Give him another 2 to 3 months. He had the confidence to bring this group of cannon fodder to casually trample on the three fellows, but not now. What formation is this? Tang Tian's right. I suddenly turned red like blood. That was another world. Black flames quietly surged out from his body and flowed along the surface of his body. In the blink of an eye, the black flames engulfed Tang Tian. Inside the black flames, only a vague human figure could be seen. The Ecliptic Palace Hall, Silver Blood, and Onyx Soul were all bought from the declining descendants of the 12 palaces by paying an astonishing price. The 12 palaces had people who specialized in this business. After these achievements, due to the decline of their families, it was difficult to survive, and they could only use their blood meridians to exchange for survival or exchange for opportunities for their descendants to advance. This spirit military general is somewhat troublesome. Old Feng's face was not good. The other two's faces were not good either. He was the master of Pavo Constellation. His body had been baptized by the power of Pavo Constellation for so many years, and the blood meridians in his body had long changed. However, he knew very well that his bloodline was far inferior to Tang Tian's. Generals were much rarer than martial artists. A general who could command 10 people would be able to find a high-paying job in any mercenary group. Whether a general was outstanding or not was determined by two criteria. The first was the ability to command. How many warriors could he command? The higher the rank, the higher the number. The second was the level of battle tactics. The situation on the battlefield was ever-changing. Only by making the right decision at the right time could one obtain the best result. He spread his arms and stood there silently, black flames curling around him. A pair of dark red eyes slowly lit up from within the black flames. It was a terrifying sight. Lang Yu looked at Tang Tian, who was covered in black flames, with a peerless horror. Her hands and feet were ice-cold. When he saw Tang Tian's king peacock eyes, he could not help but have the thought of finding trouble with Tang Tian. But now, he no longer had any thoughts of finding Tang Tian. He did not know what the black flames were, but he knew it was not something he could provoke. Tu Ruhai did not have any thoughts, and started to worry about the outcome of the battle. And the current Lion King Leong was even more tyrannical on this point. Because of such matters, he had already started 3 wars, and blood flowed like rivers. Tu Ruhai was also watching the battle. Because of some reasons, he did not personally go. Out of the 6 of them, he was most at ease with Meng Wei. But he never thought that Meng Wei would actually be the first to meet with a problem. Good. The Iron Tower, like Manju agreed. His brute force was the most suitable for such a battle formation. All the palaces turn a blind eye to this kind of thing. But when he saw the black flames surging out from Tang Tian's body, he immediately stood up. The individual strength of military leaders were usually very weak, and in essence, military leaders were a type of support-type martial artist. They only trained in one way, and that was to control the aura. The so-called control aura was the ability to control the various sword auras and blade auras released by their comrades. The higher the control aura ability, the higher the ability to command. The battle was in a stalemate. Tang Tian's blue left eye attracted his interest, especially when he saw that Tang Tian was actually able to force Meng Wei to use the power of the constellation in her blood meridians. He was surprised, but in his heart, he thought that the battle was over. Blood meridians? That was definitely the power of blood meridians. Although the 12 ecliptic palaces had fought before, but to protect their descendants, they treated them equally. The disciples of the 12 ecliptic palaces could be killed, but anyone who dared to extract the blood meridians of the ecliptic palaces would definitely be punished by the palaces. As expected, behind Tang, the large army was quickly changing their formation. In the battle, the most attention was focused on Tang Tian and Meng Wei's battle, but there was another battle that many people were paying attention to, and that was the Lupus Army. A low-level constellation like Southern Skies, 42 constellations, had never had an army in the past. Countless thoughts flashed through Tu Ruhai's mind, but his eyes were unwilling to leave the light screen for even a moment. His eyes were filled with greed and passion. If he could contribute a bloodline that was of a higher grade than the Equatorial Palace silver rank, then his status as an elder would definitely rise by a level. Above that was the golden bloodline. The reason he had started this conflict was because, given his position, no matter what he did in the Southern Skies 42 constellations, nothing would happen to him. If Tang Tian truly had the Ecliptic Palace's blood meridians, then Meng Wei would be in danger. In the Southern Skies 42 constellations, he had the qualifications and the strength to do so. As for what disputes would arise later, it had nothing to do with him. His actions were within the scope of his authority, so no one could find fault with him. Equatorial silver blood, this was already quite difficult for him. The next level would be the Ecliptic Path silver bloodline, which was the pinnacle existence of the silver bloodline. This was not a problem of money. To be able to possess Ecliptic Palace's silver blood, one had to be a descendant of the 12 palaces. Of the 12 Ecliptic Palaces, a few of them were already on the verge of destruction. But no one had ever dared to have any ideas on the descendants of the 12 Ecliptic Palaces. But thinking about that, Tu Ruhai's mind calmed down. If it was the Ecliptic Path silver blood, then he could not touch it. There was also the possibility of it being an ancient blood meridian. If that was the case, then it would definitely be a fat piece of meat. The most important reason was that talents were hard to come by. Any army needed a military leader, and with a military leader, then it could be called an army. At the start, when they heard that Lupus constellation had an army, everyone thought it was a joke. Until they heard that 2 Heaven Road list martial artists met with the army, and one died, and the other was injured, then everyone started to be interested. A spirit general with a commanding power of 200, that price was definitely sky high. But very quickly, someone realized that there was a spirit general in the army commanding 50 people. But if that was the case, the spirit general with the poker face would have a commanding power of 150. Even a big organization like Onyx Soul would not dare to start a war with the big shots. Unless this small place truly had an army? All these years, he had long given up on the thought of climbing up because he knew it was almost impossible. So he was a tyrant. Tang Yi's commanding power was 60, and ordinary staff sergeant's was 50. He was a gold-ranked staff sergeant and had 10 more. Sima Xiao turned his head and looked at his senior brother in a daze. Senior brother. Bing was very calm. The 3 of them had rich battle experience and did not rush the formation, but made a detour and ran to the back of the formation. It was their first time seeing such a weird formation, although they did not know the depth of it, but they could still see that the back of the formation was a huge flaw. Although the cannon fodder had trained in the umbrella formation for a few days, but to rely on a few days of time to completely understand the formation was simply impossible. Ecliptic Palace's silver blood. Tang Tian definitely had the Ecliptic Palace's silver blood in his body. Ancient race descendant, or an extremely small chance of mutation. But everyone shook their heads. The spirit general's commanding power was enough. But to rely on such an army, to defeat 3 of the 2 family 6 guards, was simply wishful thinking. Many people had their suspicions cleared and immediately lost interest in the following battle, thinking that the 2 Heaven Road list martial artists were careless, and thus were killed by the cannon fodder army. He led the 50 men, and like a gust of wind, killed their way to the 3 of them. Without any nonsense, the zanbato in his hand suddenly slashed out, and at the same time, the Lupus martial artists behind him brandished their curved blades in unison. The main army is changing formation. Amethyst reminded. Rush over. No matter how powerful he is, he only has 50 men. Old Feng clenched his teeth. Manju, you are the main attacker. A spirit general with commanding power of 200 was a sky-high price. A spirit general with commanding power of 150 was also a sky-high price. But they had met Tang Yi here. So when everyone saw that there were 200 people in this army, they were all shocked. His expression was extremely excited. He had never heard of any blood meridians that could produce black flames. He opened his eyes wide. His body leaned forward and stared at the screen in a daze. Military general type spirit generals were called spirit military generals and were not rare. Especially military general type spirit generals with commanding power lower than 20, they were mostly used in large mercenary groups and organizations. Spirit generals with commanding power over 50 were extremely expensive, and ordinary organizations would find it hard to afford them. Furthermore, spirit generals usually had limited intelligence, although they had commanding power, but compared to humans, they were not nimble enough. They could be used in small groups, but rarely used in large groups. It was the first time the brown-haired young man saw his senior brother so flustered. He could not imagine that his senior brother would actually have such an expression. The so-called military general was a martial artist that could guide and converge the attacks of more than 10 people. There were many elders in Onyx Soul, and even though they were all elders, their positions were as different as heaven and earth. The more they contributed to Onyx Soul, the higher their position would be, and the more power they would have, and the more wealth they would have. Seeing the 3 of them rushing towards him, Tang Yi was expressionless, and once again raised the zanbato in his hand. This is black flames. Xiao Jun's expression changed, his voice trembling slightly. Inside his body, it was as though something had suddenly exploded and rushed straight to his brain. Tang Tian's body trembled, his pupils losing focus. The blue in his left eye quickly became clean, and a bit of red surged out from the depths of his pupil and quickly filled his entire eye. like a demon god. Which ecliptic palace constellation could produce black flames? Thinking about it, he jumped in fright. Tang Yi's judgment of their attack route was extremely accurate, and it felt as though they were rushing forward. If they wanted to win, then they had to take a different path. Leading 50 people, to him, was extremely easy. Chapter 310. Bang! Amethyst's transparent crystal body lit up with a transparent light aura and entered the long whip in her hands. She raised her hand and threw out the long snake whip. When the long snake whip left her hands, it transformed into a 10 m long gigantic snake, opening its bloody mouth, pouncing towards Bing. Bang! Old Fang's expression turned cold. The skin on his entire body quickly became pitch black. Between his arms and body, there was a layer of mist like a membrane, and his eyes became extremely bright. Ancient Bat raced blood meridians. The short bow in his hands lit up with a dazzling silver light. The extreme Earth-grade silver treasure, Draco Constellations, Draco's short bow. Bing's expression was calm. Sitting upright on the horse's back, he did not move an inch. He only gently raised his right forearm, as though he was greeting. The three of them were extremely well coordinated. Amethyst and Old Feng acted at the same time. But when their gazes landed on the cannon fodder army, they were stunned to realize that in front of them was actually the spirit general who was standing at the front of the formation. A light murmur, like the wind, dissipated in the air. When Old Feng and the other two saw Bing appearing in front of them again, they knew they were already at a disadvantage. Without any hesitation, the three of them exploded at the same time. "Hey, everyone, I'm here." Time seemed to have stopped at that moment. But they never thought they were actually unable to get close. The entire process was not slow at all. It was as smooth as flowing water. Separate, their movements were so neat, as though they were measured by a ruler. That was Bing's true goal. After using the awakening medicine, the ancient lupus race blood meridians in their bodies were activated, and they were able to sense each other. But this sense was very vague and could not exceed 3 people. That was why Bing chose the umbrella formation tactic. Every lupus martial artist, one at the front and one at the back, could sense each other. This sense could greatly increase their tacit understanding. The fan-shaped formation split open from the middle, like a paper fan tearing open. Bing's position was at the fan bone nail. He turned and advanced towards Tang Yi, and at the same time, the two parts that were split closed in opposite directions. When the army station was in position, the troops once again formed the fan shape. The situation on the battlefield once again changed. Amethyst and Old Feng's face finally changed. They were extremely confident of Manju's frontal assault. Manju's frontal assault had always been their team's best weapon. In order to quickly end the battle, they used this crude and simple method. Whether it was the arrow that was emitting faint black smoke, the giant snake that was more than 10 meters long with its bloody mouth wide open, or Manju that was shaped like a violent bear, all of them seemed to be blocked by an invisible barrier, unable to advance even an inch. However, just as the three of them separated and were about to launch a new wave of attacks, Tang Yi's troops suddenly turned around and madly galloped away from battlefield. The scene in front of him was as though the three of them were cooperating with the army to perform. The entire process did not have the slightest delay. Of course, they knew that it was impossible for 3 of the 6 guards to cooperate, so there was only one possibility. The three's attack methods were accurately predicted by the opponent. They waved the scimitars in their hands in unison. Manju fiercely slapped his chest, roared towards the sky, and rushed towards Bing. When his mountain-like body ran, the ground shook and the mountains shook. It was a frightening sight. At this moment, his defense had suddenly increased by a whole 5-fold, making it difficult for swords and sabers to injure him. 10 dazzling and powerful blade auras gathered in front of his palms and turned into a dazzling ball of light. The palm that was grabbing the ball of light suddenly opened up. The 3 of them did not have time to react and were engulfed by the surging light auras. The 150 blade auras were highly compressed and were continuously shattered by Bing, forming tens of thousands of blade auras that were as fine as sand but were highly compressed. The moment they exploded, the light auras were indescribable. What a pity! An astonishing formless energy with a ball of light as the center suddenly dispersed in all directions. The Southern Cross Army's requirements for a staff sergeant: command 50 men, outstanding individual strength, able to grasp all the fundamental tactics, able to understand and execute the orders given by the higher-ups, able to make reasonable judgments on the battlefield. So his intelligence was close to that of a demon. The martial artists that were arranged in a fan formation behind him, as though they were being pulled by an invisible hand, roared in unison, "Kill!" Manju roared. Countless of black hair appeared on his body, and his originally tall and sturdy body once again expanded. A ruthless and savage chi soared into the sky. On his chest, there was a crescent moon-shaped white scar. Polar ground rank silver blood, Ursa major constellation, violent bear remnant blood. But the feeling of being able to fight was actually pretty good. The whip shadow and feather arrows entered the troops, and 3 screams sounded out. 3 martial artists that were separated from the troops were injured, but the rest were safe and sound. One of them was grazed by the whip shadow and immediately flew out from the back of his horse. The other 2 swayed on their horses, and 2 more bloody holes appeared on their bodies. But luckily, it was not fatal, and the other 2 arrows landed in the empty space of the troops. This deduction caused countless of people to suck in cold air. He extended his right hand and suddenly grabbed at the empty space in front of him. If they were well trained, they would be able to dodge this wave of attacks. The casualties did not cause Tang Yi's state of mind to not have any ripples. The Zanbato in his hand had already been brandished. What a powerful spirit military leader! Fatty Li was dumbstruck, saliva dripping from the corner of his mouth. Oh my God, there's actually such a powerful spirit military leader in this world. How much is that? Tang Yi was a gold-rank staff sergeant, and these few requirements were perfect. Even in the era of the Southern Cross Army, the number of military leaders that had the title of gold-rank staff sergeant could be counted with one's fingers. Tang Yi's blade aura was the first to slash onto the gigantic shield. Manju, who was rushing forward, suddenly became sluggish. Following that, pa, like rain falling on a banana leaf, the blade auras behind him all struck the gigantic shield. Like the 3 of them, the countless of important figures and military leaders in front of the light screen were in disbelief. They had just seen a strange scene. From the moment the 3 of them had circled to the back of the formation, the entire formation had already started to change. Bing's poker face revealed a sincere smile. The 3 of them unleashed their full power, even through the light screen. The terrifying aura caused the spectators' faces to change. Wait a minute. Why is he at the back of the formation? Manju roared. A 3M tall gigantic shield appeared in his hands. All the muscles on his body tensed up. Like a raging bull, he rushed forward with the gigantic shield. Amethyst and Old Feng followed closely behind. Their faces were filled with anxiety. They had never experienced such a scene before. How is that possible? The gigantic shield blocked the vision of Manju and the other 2. The 50 blade auras, like a flock of birds returning to their nest, all entered Tang Yi's blade aura. This sudden change caused the 3 of them to be startled, but they were immediately overjoyed. It meant that the enemy's main force was exposed in front of them. He was not the only one who was stunned. Almost all the people who were paying attention to the cannon fodder army were stunned. The umbrella formation tactic greatly simplified the coordination between the soldiers, but on the contrary, it had a high requirement for the military leader. The military leader who was at the front of the formation, all of his attacks would converge there. And after going through layers of transmission and strengthening of the blade auras, when they reached the military leader's level, they would already be relatively strong, and Bing needed to control 10 such blade auras at the same time. The difficulty could be imagined. If that was true, then it was too scary. Only by doing that could they unleash such orderly blade auras. The sound of the light ball exploding, to the 3 of them, was akin to thunder. Amethyst and Old Feng's face changed. Manju's strength was not much weaker than Meng Wei. It was just that his agility and speed was lacking, but to charge like that, he had never failed before. The dazzling conical-shaped, light sand current spewed out from Bing's palm. In such a short time, the enemy's formation had actually finished adjusting. Bing was suddenly in a daze. The rhombus crystal on Amethyst's forehead exploded, her skin starting to become transparent, as though it was carved out of amethyst. Her blood meridians were even more unorthodox. It was the crystal mineral race's blood meridians. This race was not considered to be a fighting race. Their traces of existence could be traced back to ancient times. The long whip in her hand was an equatorial palace hall grade silver treasure, Hydra constellations, Hydra whip. Manju felt as though he was electrocuted, his body trembled, and he retreated a few steps. Following that, 50 blade auras were released at the same time. Like a school of fish, they pounced toward the three of them. The blade auras were like silk, suddenly arriving. Old Feng's expression was solemn. The heavenly dragon short bow in his hand released a blazing silver light. The black mist in his hand transformed into an arrow, the target Bing. He shot the arrow. The black smoke disappeared. His finishing technique, heavenly dragon black bat arrow. The astonishing power caused Manju, who was rushing forward, to be pinned to the ground like a nail, and the huge shield in his hand was split into two, broken into two. Both of his palms were covered in blood. The light aura in Bing's eyes became stronger and stronger, as bright as the stars. His chest was filled with lofty sentiments. One day, he would be able to lead the new Southern Cross Army and compete with the current generation of famous generals. Old Feng roared, and the three figures separated. Since they could not charge head-on, then they could only split up and let the opponent attend to one thing and lose sight of the other. Old Feng's heart was filled with regret. The attack strategy was wrong, and the current situation was extremely disadvantageous to them. They obviously needed to fight, but Tang Yi did not pull the distance between them, and instead, when Manju retreated, he suddenly took 2 steps forward. Tang Yi led the entire team, and without thinking, the other lupus martial artists also took 2 steps forward, and the entire team took 2 steps forward. The exploding blade auras fiercely slashed onto the huge shield. The long whip in Amethyst's hand trembled, and a purple whip image like a purple snake pounced towards Tang Yi's team. Old Feng's hand had an additional short bow, his right hand holding on to 4 feathered arrows. Without looking, he knocked the bow and shot. The 4 arrow images suddenly separated in the air and pounced towards the crowd. When they saw clearly, the 150-man team actually maintained the weird formation. Their faces were filled with disbelief. In the end, he had brought an army onto the battlefield. How long has it been since I last brought an army onto the battlefield? His memory was a little hazy. He laughed at himself. Perhaps to him, the battlefield was his true home. Manju just happened to roar. He forcefully twisted his body and suddenly rushed forward. Chapter 3:11. Just at that moment, Old Feng fell down at the same time, his chi extinguished, and the amethyst that was covered in cracks all over shattered into pieces. A cold blade aura appeared in front of him without any warning. Sima Zhao's gaze landed on the 2 spirit generals of the army. The reason why they could achieve such a result was all because of the 2 spirit military leaders. Previously, the intelligence only had the spirit military leader wielding the Zanbato. Sima Zhao had never thought that Tang Tian would actually have another trump card. He was extremely curious about Tang Tian's blood meridians. Until now, he did not understand why the bronze plate was in Tang Tian's hands. The bronze plate came from Tang Tian's father, but what relationship did Tang Tian's father have with the army? In her entire fighting career, she had only used blood meridian's ignition once. But at that moment, it was enough. An indifferent and somber voice suddenly exploded in his ears. The strange situation caused Meng Wei to have a bad premonition. All right, if this is considered an army. Bing, who was on horseback, did not feel happy at all. Such a victory, to him, was not worth boasting about. The only thing that was different was that it had some commemorative meaning. My first battle leading an army? And when Bing moved, Tang, he had already led his troops to return. Something's wrong. Every detail, every reaction, all fell into the enemy's trap. One after another, the three of them did not die unjustly. Even Sima Xiao, who was an ambitious and ruthless person, felt a chill in his heart. If he was in the position of the three of them, he would not be able to do better. At that time, the subordinates behind him could no longer be counted on. The amateurs would definitely not be able to unleash a second blade. And that was the time for the military leader to display his bravery. That was also why low-level military leaders had such a high requirement for their individual strength. In a battlefield, outstanding individual strength was the best weapon to break the stalemate. The void was like a sheath, a sword flowing with black flames, was slowly pulled out by Tang Tian's palm. This was no longer just being intelligent. It was a top-grade spirit military leader with demonic intelligence. Sima Xiao believed that tonight, there would definitely be many people who would not be able to sleep. The man enveloped in black flames in the sky had a completely different aura. Sima Xiao could no longer laugh. He stared at the screen with a gloomy expression. Of course, he could tell that this so-called army was truly a cannon fodder army. They did not even have basic training. But it was this cannon fodder army that was so powerful. Counting them, there were 4 Heaven Road list martial artists that died in their hands, and 1 was heavily injured. 3 people, completely annihilated. Incomparable power suddenly erupted from his body. Manju felt his entire body was filled with power. All the hair on his body began to emit a silver light. Manju was ecstatic. The heavens did not want me to die. I actually broke through at such a crucial time. Tang, he stopped his charge, turned his horse around, and urged it to move slowly. The blade aura instantly touched Manju's arm, and the silver light aura on his hair soared. The sound of metal being cut and Manju's pitiful scream could be heard. If it was the Southern Cross Army, such a terrible performance would be enough to make the officers of the troops feel ashamed to death, and it would be enough for the entire troop to be locked up. This was the second time. The mellow and abundant power of the constellation entered the sword body, and the blood meridians in her body resonated with it. This sword, she even felt that she could slash apart the sky. The sword in Meng Wei's hand lit up with a misty light aura, and the power of the constellation from Cetus constellation continuously flowed into it. Blood Meridian's summon was extremely harmful to martial artists. Normally, unless it was a life and death situation, martial artists would not use it. But Meng Wei's situation was extremely special. She could activate the Blood Meridian summon, but would not be injured. But she only had 1 chance a year. The light aura and might of the light gravel torrent. Not only did it intimidate the others, even the martial artists under Tang, were greatly affected. This resulted in only 35 people being able to release the curved blades in their hands, and only 20 of them remembered Tang Yi's instructions and used all their strength to release the curved blades. Tang Yi retreated out of the battlefield and changed his direction. Bing congealed the light regiment and purposely paused just to give Tang Yi time. The intense pain caused Manju to scream out like a wild beast, but a strange scene appeared. The blood that was spewing out stopped automatically in a short period of time, and the wound started to slowly heal. The blade aura that Tang Yi released trembled silently, and 30 over-blade auras were attracted by a magnet and entered it. Old Fang's eyes were filled with fear from head to toe. There was not an inch of his body that was intact. The countless of densely packed blood holes were like a beehive. It was extremely terrifying. He stood there, not moving an inch, like a statue. Meng Wei was extremely familiar with this action. What realm of control aura is this? Amethyst transparent crystal body, Ka. A light sound came out, and a crack appeared on her forehead. Following that, the Ka sounds continued to sound out, and in the blink of an eye, her lifeless face and body was covered with countless of spiderweb-like cracks. Bing's gaze, unknowingly, landed on Tang Tian, who was enveloped in black flames in the sky. Tang Yi was expressionless, leaning forward on the horse's back, The zanbato in his hands was as light as a feather. Tang Tian's right arm stretched out perfectly straight, his palm gently grasping the air. A burst of black flames flowed into his palm, transforming into a sword hilt, which was grasped by his hand. In the eyes of others, these blade auras entered Tang Yi's blade aura, but in truth, they stuck close to Tang Yi's blade aura, forming a group of blades with a small distance between them, vibrating at an extremely high frequency. The blade aura was as thin as a cicada's wing. When Bing was overwhelmed with shock, Tang Tian, who was in the sky, made a move. Bing and Tang Tian had been together for a long time. Adding on the fact that he had supervised Tang Tian's training, he was extremely familiar with Tang Tian's chi. When Tang Tian used the King Peacock eyes previously, although his aura changed, but his chi did not change. 22 blade auras accurately pierced into the wound on Manju's arm, without a single mistake. What a pity. If the team was well trained, one blade would have been enough. At this moment, Manju's throat was spewing out blood, and he fell to the ground. All of his hopes were placed on Meng Wei. As long as Meng Wei could win, then there would be a chance to turn the tables. On the horse's back, Tang Yi held his blade horizontally, indifferent and austere, showing his might. I want to kill you. All of you go and die. Blood Meridian summon. Tang Yi was like a gust of wind, sweeping past Manju. Tu Ruhai's face changed again. He never thought that the battle would actually end up in such a situation. He felt that Meng Wei, who had victory in her grasp, had fallen into a bitter battle, and the three of them could easily deal with a cannon fodder army. But in the end, the three of them were killed in an instant. What was even more amazing was the incomparably precise battle plan. The entire battle, from start to finish, was completely in the hands of the two spirit military leaders. That was the scariest part. Spirit military leaders with high command were not scary. Spirit military leaders with exquisite control auras were not scary. What was scary was the intelligent spirit military leaders. He had long known that Tang Tian's blood meridians were not normal. At the weak point fighting grounds, when Tang Tian absorbed the dwarf blood meridians and angel blood meridians, the absorption process was completely different from other people. Manju used his arms to protect his face. His entire body was covered with wounds, blood dripping everywhere. But the savage bear's remnant blood gave him an extremely tenacious life force. And with his astonishing defense, it allowed him to survive the torrent of light gravel. The injuries on his body looked scary, but in truth, they were all superficial wounds. The power of the constellation on the sword blade seemed to have sensed danger and started to buzz. The power of the constellation was actually pouring in endlessly, as though even the Cetus constellation in the sky had sensed the danger. Meng Wei's eyes constricted. Other than Tang Tian in front of her, the blade aura pierced into Manju's arm, causing blood to spurt out. That comical poker face was indescribably funny, but when they thought of that amazing performance just now, no one laughed. It was the first time Sima Xiao had seen a military leader who was able to fight like an artist. From the results, it was definitely not a cannon fodder army. The light gravel torrent that suddenly lit up, snatching away all of the light auras on the battlefield. Tang Yi's control aura was far from Bing's, but his Grandmaster grade blade technique, in such a small area of control aura, was able to unleash an astonishing might. The intense sense of danger caused Manju's entire body to tremble. In a moment of desperation, the blood in his body suddenly boiled. A faint Ursa, a major constellation, appeared in the sky, and a brown light aura shot down from the sky. His gaze once again landed on Meng Wei. Kill. When the light aura dissipated, the three figures appeared in front of everyone. Sima Xiao glanced at his senior brother and was startled. His senior brother's gaze was fixated on Tang Tian, who was covered in black flames. If this army was a little more trained. Just at that moment, Tang Tian, who was enveloped in black flames, suddenly lowered his left arm. He also had military leaders under him, but in comparison, their standards were higher and lower. So when the light aura dissipated, Tang, he had already killed his way to Manju's side. The timing of his blade could be said to be flawless. But even after so much training, the result of the blade was still far from Tang Yi's expectations. Bing's pupils dilated. The figure in the sky that was enveloped in black flames gave him an extremely unfamiliar chi. Meng Wei's face changed. Her heart suddenly jumped. Suddenly, her pupils constricted, instantly filled with shock. All the clues to the mystery could be found from Tang Tian's blood meridians. Meng Wei, that was the movement of a sword being unsheathed. Manju was completely enraged. The chi on his body became even more tyrannical. He used both his arms to protect his face and roared as he pounced towards Bing. Countless of people in front of the screen suddenly stood up, their faces overwhelmed with shock. They were so shocked by the scene in front of them that their minds went blank. And all the military leaders looked at the figure in the screen in disbelief, as though they had seen a ghost. Grandmaster Grade Blade Technique allowed him to unleash 22 blades in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. Wait a minute. As long as he could kill his way to that damned spirit general, he could crush him like an ant. Black flames. The hand that was holding onto the black flame sword slowly moved forward. What exactly is going on? On Manju's back, a sinister and ferocious brown bear tattoo appeared. Chi. Behind him, 2 arms flew into the sky. Manju's expression was filled with fear, but he could not make any sound as a line of blood appeared on his throat. Chapter 312. The sand dune 20 li away instantly crumbled, and countless figures flew out from the sand. Crane's reaction was extremely fast. Upon hearing Tang Tian's roar, Crane's face changed, and without hesitation, he abandoned his opponent and flew out. Crane, who was in the air, was like a big black crane. The wave of chi rushed in front of him. His expression congealed, his arms extended, his body relaxed. And when the wave of chi reached his body, his heart trembled, and everything in his field of vision was swept away at an astonishing speed. Meng Wei laughed bitterly. Her gaze landed on Tang Tian's body. Tang Tian, who was enveloped in black flames, stood there with his sword. His chi had become completely different, berserk and cold. In the battle, quickly. Even the blood meridians summoning has no chance of winning. This fellow, Ling Su's eyes squinted. Single Blade, who was in front of him, suddenly looked like he was being stared at by a wild beast, his expression congealing. Hey, uncle, where is this? Tang Tian shouted anxiously. Although he did not know why, the opponent's attack made him feel that the pointed sea spears were of the same origin, but Ling Su could clearly judge that the pointed sea spears were superior. Meng Wei's blood meridian's completion rate was extremely high, and her communication with Cetus constellation was much easier than any other martial artist. Single Blade had used his old strength for a long time, and before he could generate new strength, he was struck and flew over 10 m away, landing heavily in the sand, and did not move. Making a prompt decision, Meng Wei's eyes lit up and was about to make a move. When Tang Tian's body released the black flames, the star power of Cetus constellation increased, as though it wanted to suppress the black flames on Tang Tian's body. But when Tang Tian pulled out the sword from the void, the star power of Cetus constellation quickly decreased, as though it felt that it could not win. The sword was about the width of a palm, but was 5 m long, longer than Tang Tian's height. The sword body was perfectly straight, without a guard, and the dense black flames flowed along the sword body. Meng Wei's sword was trembling, the blood in her body almost congealing. A ring-shaped ripple that could be seen with the naked eye, with Tang Tian as the center spread out. His gaze slowly swept across the entire field. The eyes in the black flames were fiery red, but incomparably cold. This guy, just where did he come from, Boom? Bing, Ling Su and Crane, all of their past memories. He remembered them all, but they were like distant matters, and were unable to cause any ripples in his heart. His heart, as if he had experienced countless life and death situations, had a heart of stone. Bang! However, last time, it was clearly only his fist that emitted flames. How could it be like this time? Constellation blood meridians, were formed and evolved under the long-term immersion of the constellation power. This also allowed the blood meridians to communicate with the constellation. The bloodline summoning was like the burning of a secret treasure's martial spirit. The difference was that the burning of the secret treasure's martial spirit would cause the secret treasure to dissipate. As for the bloodline summon, it would also cause great damage. However, if one could endure it, there was a chance that it would allow one to undergo a transformation. But at the same time, she was even more sensitive to the changes in the constellation's power. Ever since Old Man Fei saw that his blood could produce black flames, Tang Tian had a bold idea. How good would it be if he could make use of this black flame? That black flame could even burn treasures. If he could use it in battle, wouldn't that be a huge gain for him? In the end, he really found a way, and that was his red eye. The power of the Saint's sword is not something he can control at the moment. The bestowal of a sword saint is the strongest tempering in the world. Even if it is an ordinary iron sword, once it becomes a saint's sword, it will become extremely strong. Xiao Jun's eyes revealed a look of yearning. Tang Tian was startled. How long had it been since he last touched a sword? The last time he touched a sword was when he was training the fundamental sword techniques in the academy. Suddenly, countless of information surged in like a tide. Sima Xiao was dumbstruck. He had never heard of this sword saint before, but he knew that his senior brother would definitely not make a mistake in this aspect. The air wave that was like a wall blasted out a hole. The berserk airflow wreaked havoc. The entire team, in a moment, was swaying left and right, but there were no casualties. This fellow, who exactly is he? The berserk power flowed through the spear body. Ling Su's entire body tensed up, all of his true power frantically revolving. With a roar, the spear aura increased explosively. Tang Tian, who was in mid-air, landed on the ground. He held onto his sword and knelt on the ground, as though he was in extreme pain. No one knew how many sword saints were produced in Heaven's Road, but every single sword saint was the strongest person at that time. To existences with long histories like the 12 Palaces, they might not be surprised as their history was too long, and they had produced many saint galaxy domains. But to the Clan Union, a new organization with only a few decades of history, sword saints were like legends and legends. Meng Wei was the first to bear the brunt. She only felt as though she was struck by a wild beast. She groaned. Her entire body flew over 30 m away before stopping herself. At the corner of her mouth, a trace of blood flowed down, her gaze filled with shock. Tang Yi was the first to react. He suddenly waved his blade, and around 70 to 80 people reacted, waving their blade auras. Bing's expression was solemn, both hands lightly flicking. The blade auras merged into one and slashed towards the airwave. Bing's expression changed. He bellowed, "Blade! Impossible! Wu Wanghai has never married in his entire life, and 1,500 years ago is too far away." Xiao Jun shook his head. He moved as though he was riding the wind. In the blink of an eye, he was already half a mile away, his face filled with shock. Tang Tian felt an intense pain in his head. It was a heart-piercing pain, and he subconsciously wanted to hug his head. The figure in front of him acted as though he did not hear anything. But from the corner of Tang Tian's eyes, he suddenly realized that he was holding onto a weird sword. He was still holding onto the sword tightly, his entire body trembling. Suddenly, Tang Tian, who was in the black flames in front of him, curled up into a ball. Crane calmed himself down and turned to look at the army chief with a cold gaze. "Seems like I need to quickly get rid of the person in front of me." He expressionlessly raised the sword in his hand. Bing, who was crawling out from the sand, looked at Tang Tian in a daze. Like a wild beast's roar, it was like rolling thunder, sweeping across the entire desert. Accompanying the roar was a wave of cold and ruthless air that swept across like a hurricane. "Don't tell me Tang Tian is Wu Wanghai's descendant?" Sima Xiao was suspicious. "Hold on to the sword tightly." Ling Su also noticed the change in Tang Tian and was equally surprised. The figure in the sky that was enveloped by the black flames was cold and ruthless. Ling Su's first reaction was not Tang Tian. He was simple-minded and trusted his own intuition. Tang Tian was usually bright and foolish and would never be cold and ruthless. Saint? Saint Sword? Sima Xiao stuttered. He thought he had heard wrongly. It was not the calmness of the King Peacock eyes, but a condescending indifference. In Tang Tian's heart, there was not a single ripple. He looked around indifferently. In his mind, there were countless of sword techniques, as though they had existed since the beginning. Ling Su's attention had always been on Tang Tian, and when Tang Tian roared, his face changed. He did not care about the single blade in front of him, and turned his spear tip, the pointed sea spear protecting him. Suddenly, a voice came out. Then why is he able to pull out the sword? Sima Xiao asked. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his entire being flung out. Tang Tian did not lose consciousness, but his consciousness was in an extremely strange state. It was as though he was in a chaotic void, surrounded by endless black flames, a blurred-back figure, not far away. The sword in his hand was actually a saint's sword. Enemy. Crane raised his head and glanced at Tang Tian in the sky, a trace of worry rising in his heart. The way Tang Tian was holding the sword was definitely not a novice. And Crane was very clear. Tang Tian's sword techniques were very shallow, and Tang Tian's current chi was too foreign. Sword? Qiu Jun shook his head. Impossible. This sword is sealed in the void. That's right. I should have known the black flames were the void dark flames. Without reaching the saint domain, it is impossible to break through the void. Who am I? Ocean Prison. Qiu Jun's voice was trembling. Saint Sword Ocean Prison. Tang Tian suddenly raised his head and stood up. Something must have happened. What a pity. Sima Xiao was filled with regret. If he could obtain a saint's sword, his prestige in the clan union would be unparalleled. He then said with envy, just a projection of the dark flames, and yet it is so glorious, truly powerful. But it was still unable to withstand the terrifying wave of chi. Flamingo slid on the sand and retreated over 30 m before stopping. The chi that the black flame sword emitted proved how powerful it was. The figure in front of Tang Tian released a hoarse and unpleasant weird laugh and gradually disappeared. The martial artists who were watching the battle from the sand dune 20 li away only saw a ripple, like a wave rising from the sea. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of them. Meng Wei looked at Tang Tian, who was in front of her, not moving at all, like a puppet. Could it be that he had some adverse reaction? Meng Wei's mind was moved. It was not strange, for many powerful star treasures, when recognizing their master, the martial artist's power would usually be greatly weakened. Tang Tian lowered his head, looking at his own hand and the sword in his hand. Qiu Jun gradually calmed down, his eyes staring intently at the sword. About 1,500 years ago, there was a sword saint with a weird temper called Wu Wang Hai. It is said that when he was young, he accidentally gained enlightenment on a sword technique that could break through space, but he did not succeed in being bestowed as a saint. This person's character was weird, ruthless, and bloodthirsty, and was once chased by 6 saints, but he managed to escape every time. After being chased for 20 years, he was bestowed as a saint and stepped into the saint domain. His sword was called Ocean Prison. There were rumors saying that before he died, he threw Ocean Prison into the void. Who knew? The sword in his hand is not a real body, but a projection, Qiu Jun said. His body should have sealed some of Ocean Prison's dark flames. All these dark flames are able to resonate with the Ocean Prison sealed in the void and borrow its power. Can we snatch it? Suddenly, a fierce look flashed past Sima Zhao's eyes. Previously, he sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight, planning to fish in troubled waters. But the appearance of the saint's sword was enough to change his mind. It was as though he was a different person. His gaze landed on Meng Wei. Sword Saint, I'll risk it all. Tang Tian did not care about anything else. He gripped the sword in his hand tightly, the pain swallowing him up like a tide. Meng Wei was not sure, but she knew it was her only chance. Crane's opponent had his back facing Tang Tian, and when Crane suddenly flew away, he was startled and his face changed. But it was already too late. He could only forcefully move his energy to his back, and a burst of ferocious energy fiercely struck his back. He, as expected of his son. Chapter 3:13. The grief-stricken Meng Wei, suddenly seeing Tang Tian, was like a drowning person grabbing onto a life-saving straw. She begged in panic. "Mister, save it." Ordinary metal, nameless. 100 battles soul, burning white whale blood. Sacrifice for your life. This type of star treasure was unable to borrow the power of the constellation, but it had other uses, and they were not part of the constellation system. Thus they were called constellation dark treasures. Tang Tian's indifferent voice sounded out, ocean prison in his hand, pointed straight at Meng Wei. A man that even Sita's constellation feared. He definitely has the ability to save it. Definitely. Tang Tian was expressionless. Ocean prison that was hanging down, slashed out. Crane was dumbstruck. The impact of having a legend appear in front of him caused him to be startled. But when he saw Tang Tian, who was in the air covered in black flames, without any intention of dodging, his face suddenly changed. Meng Wei's eyes had a trace of gentleness. Ordinary metal soul. Your life is about to begin. In the future, you will definitely be famous and awe the world. Ocean prison in his hand suddenly released 2 rays of black flame, sword auras. This asshole. Don't tell me he really wants to help me block it? The dense lightning flowed along the light pillar, converging into a layer of lightning net. The white whale blood meridians in Meng Wei's body was extremely special. The white whale blood meridians were just a branch of Sita's constellation, but the blood meridians in her body was actually 90% complete. I don't know. Qiuji Jun shook his head, his eyes filled with respect. I only wish for you to be safe. An explosive sound came out from her body, causing her body to tremble, her always cold face frowning, as though she was enduring the extreme pain. Can he succeed? Sima Xiao was silent for a long time, and suddenly asked. Meng Wei's legs started to disappear. The change in the sky caused her face to change. Facing such power, anyone would have been so scared that their legs would have gone soft. But for Tang Tian, bang! As long as it was able to withstand the backlash from Sita's constellation, it would become a brand new star treasure. Asshole, you're dead. Crane subconsciously waved the crane sword in his hand, and a burst of astonishing power came from the sword blade, causing his body to fly out. His reaction was extremely fast. He could feel that although this power was astonishing, it had no intention of harming him. Thus, he flew back along with his power. Her hand trembled as she felt the sorrow of the long sword in her hand. This long sword was not a secret artifact. Aside from its hardness, it had no other advantages. It was just a training sword, not sharpened, just hard. She had brought it along and had experienced many cruel eliminations in Onyx Soul. She had never changed her sword. It followed her and was the source of her courage. Every time she panicked, she would feel at peace with this sword in her hand. Sita's constellation wanted to destroy the sword. Thou have a good life. Listening to the young girl's murmur, Tang Tian's cold expression didn't change in the slightest, but for some reason, a ripple appeared in his heart. Meng Wei held her sword with both hands, raised it vertically in front of her, and closed her eyes. Her entire body lit up with a white light aura. The Sita's constellation that had just disappeared appeared once again, casting down a gentle white light pillar, the white light aura continuously pouring into the sword in her hand. She suddenly raised her head. It is called safe and sound. Meng Wei's vision was completely covered by the black flames, and she had nowhere to hide. The sword body suddenly released a white light aura, enveloping Meng Wei. The white light and black flames clashed and immediately became unstable. The sky trembled intensely. The black flames exploded, and his chi once again increased explosively. Second blood meridians summoning. Tang Tian kept ocean prison in his hand, and the sky full of black flames disappeared. He looked at Meng Wei, who was in front of him. The white light aura flowed along the sword body and quickly flowed. The white patterns could be seen with the naked eye growing along the potholes on the sword body. Tang Tian, who had an indifferent expression, suddenly opened his mouth and said softly, "Sword name." The dark clouds in the sky were pitch black, and only Sita's constellation was extremely bright. Chilala! Tang Tian raised his head and looked at Sita's constellation in the sky, his eyes filled with hatred. Every star treasure was born from a constellation, and every star treasure of a constellation was a huge and strict system. Artificially created star treasures would receive intense resistance from the corresponding constellation, and that was the constellation's backlash. The sword was refined by Meng Wei using the power of her blood meridians, and thus received the backlash from Sita's constellation. Meng Wei muttered, sword name, buzz." Seeing the sword in Tang Tian's hand, slowly rising up, the hairs on Meng Wei's body suddenly stood. The suffocating sense of danger made her want to turn and run. The black sword body was covered with fine and exquisite silver-white patterns, causing the sword to look luxurious and exquisite without a trace of evil qi. But the potholes on the sword body made it look like it was damaged. Sita's constellation that appeared in the sky suddenly released a bright light aura, and in the blink of the eye, the sky became gloomy and countless of clouds gathered from all directions. But the power of the constellation's backlash was extremely terrifying, so in history, constellation dark treasures were extremely rare. Wu Wanghai roared like an injured wild beast. The surrounding dark clouds became even denser. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, as though it was the end of the world. "I will die." Pa! A crisp sound exploded in her body, causing her body to tremble. But it was something that could be used. As long as she used the emotions, she could completely release the might of Ocean Prison Sword. And the true body of Ocean Prison Sword in the void, out of hatred, would definitely increase the power of the projection. What a joke! After killing countless people and drinking blood like a river, the ordinary training sword was slowly gaining a new spirit. "I beg you, save it." Meng Wei, who was begging bitterly, had tears streaming down her face. The surging black flame sword aura was like a pitch-black flaming pillar soaring into the sky and clashed with the light pillar of Sita's constellation. The long sword wailed, the sword light swirled, and a ray of light shot straight into Sita's constellation in the sky. Sita's constellation suddenly lit up with a dazzling light aura, and the two identical light auras clashed together. Thou is indestructible. Together with him was Ling Su. Ling Su did not know anything about constellation dark treasures and was completely relying on his intuition. Tang Tian was in danger. The backlash of Sita's constellation would cause it to turn into ashes. The surging black flames spewed out from the sword body, and the black torrent pounced towards Meng Wei. Even though I know I'm being used, I still hate it. Bang, the sky trembled. No one would have thought that a battle would actually turn into such a result. But the scene in front of them was far more shocking than the battle between the two. It was a battle between a man and the heavens. No, this was the backlash of the constellation. He waved the black flames sea prison in his hand. "Thou shall not be tainted by blood." His gloomy life was finally coming to an end. Tang Tian's body shook, but the corner of his mouth floated into a cold smile. Along with the sword technique, Wu Wanghai's life was also imprinted in his mind. Wu Wanghai had been chased for 20 years and was filled with disgust and hatred towards the suppression of the higher level power. The disgust and hatred penetrated deep into his bones. "Thou shall not work without a blade." Crane scolded in his heart. His figure was like lightning, frantically flying towards Tang Tian. Tang Tian lightly spat out 2 words, "Idiot." The pressure in the sky became more and more intense, and the black clouds became denser and denser. The safe and sound sword in Tang Tian's hand wailed. That was also why she was able to use the blood meridians summoned twice. Tang Tian saw 2 figures from the corner of his eyes. His heart stirred, but he spat out 2 words, idiot! Bang! The figure that was surrounded by black flames, for some reason, was filled with a power that intimidated people's hearts. With his own power, in front of the anger of the heavens, he did not retreat at all. The young lady's face was pale white, her voice trembling, but she stubbornly said it word by word. The body of the training sword was already full of bumps and hollows, with cracks everywhere. Although she cherished it, but its quality was still ordinary. After I die, you will definitely be buried. Very few people like training swords. You're so warlike, you will definitely feel unreconciled. A light pillar suddenly fell. Different from the gentle light pillar previously, this light pillar was fierce and dangerous. Please don't be sad for me. This is a release. Countless scenes flashed past her eyes. The wandering when she was young, being picked up by the clan elder, the cruel elimination and killing, the frail and weak girl holding onto the blood-stained sword in fear, the silent sobbing in the dead of the night. Is it finally going to end? The sword in her hand suddenly exploded with light aura, but in the blink of the eye, all the light aura was absorbed into the sword. In the dark and boundless void, a figure stood alone, with a hoarse laugh. As expected of his son, to even make use of my hatred. Very good. She was extremely experienced in battles, and knew that she had no chance of winning. The white light and black flames splashed. The lightning aura was disorderly. The astonishing chi swept in all directions. In front of the light screen, everyone was silent. Meng Wei, who was in front of Tang Tian, was already close to being transparent. She looked at Tang Tian with gratitude. Thank you. The cold and berserk chi flowed along the ocean prison sword and continuously entered Tang Tian's body. The indifferent heart was like a transparent glass, without any waves. The sword techniques that were constantly rolling in his mind were familiar yet foreign. Crane and Ling Su suddenly realized that the black flame sword aura was flying towards them and quivered. But, sword name? Sword name. The young lady's sincere voice floated in the air. Meng Wei disappeared in the air, not leaving a trace. Ling Su was not as smart as Crane. He and his bird were like bounce balls, directly flying 300 m away. In the air, Ling Su scolded loudly, getting further and further away. Too strong. The Tang Tian in front of her was so strong that she could not even think of resisting. Thank you for fighting alongside me. Please accept my last thanks. All of the light screens were trembling. Everything became blurry. The intense energy undulation affected the star treasures. The stars of the Cetus constellation lit up one after another. Tang Tian's gaze suddenly became fierce and ruthless, like an enraged wild beast. Pa pa pa. Meng Wei's mouth suddenly revealed a smile. She felt an indescribable sense of relief. Since I'm dead, I don't need to fight anymore. Tang Tian was expressionless. With a wave of his hand, the sword flew into his hands. The sword body had 2 words, safe and sound. Tang Tian raised his head, looking at the sky above him. The black flames were raging, his aura was sharp, but he was fearless. Meng Wei panicked. The sword was the only thing she cared about in the world, and her only companion. She wanted to let it live a better life, but she did not expect that it would cause Cetus constellation to retaliate. The black flames were extremely fierce. The white light was in imminent danger. His left hand held onto the safe and sound sword. His right hand lowered ocean prison, and his body slightly squatted down. She held onto the sword tightly, using all her might to calm her breathing and muster up her fighting spirit. She had always thought that her willpower was as strong as steel, but at that moment, it was showing signs of crumbling. Chapter 314. You really don't remember at all? Ling Su asked suspiciously. Aren't you afraid that I will find trouble with you, and are purposely trying to bluff your way through? Was it a coincidence, or was it a necessity? If it was me, I would have definitely found out the truth. The safe and sound sword in his hand trembled. Everyone's excited discussions came from behind him. Cetus constellation in the sky slowly dimmed until it disappeared. His face immediately changed, and he screamed, Ah, did I oversleep? Oh my God, Ling Su, little Crane, you guys hold on. Two figures flew over like the wind. Crane and Ling Su saw Tang Tian falling down and jumped in fright and immediately rushed over. It disappeared, Crane said. It flew higher and higher, but was never able to reach Cetus constellation. After rising for a few hundred meters, it finally disappeared in the sky. Ling Su, I gave her the sword. Tang Tian could smell a conspiracy. What was that asshole trying to do? That's great. I knew that master would definitely be fine. Southern Cross Army, Sword Saint. Are there any connections between the two? Regardless of how the big powerhouses investigated in the dark, Tang Tian's name quickly spread across the southern sky and northern sky, and even the five polar domains had heard of him. Crane stared at Tang Tian's expression and quickly asked, "How do you feel?" Crane, you suddenly emitted a lot of black flames. Ha ha! Tang Tian laughed to the point that tears almost flowed out. Hey, can you guys be more professional when making up stories? She even gave me the sword and then died? Waha! Is it because I'm too handsome? Housefly cow, look, I'm definitely more handsome than you. When he rushed out of the room, he was stunned. The stronghold in front of him was peaceful and lively, as though everyone was celebrating a festival. The screams immediately reached a climax, and countless martial artists rushed over like a tide. Only then did the other three realize what was going on. Master is awake. Suddenly, a martial artist screamed. In the air, Wu Wanghai's face revealed a faint worry. Tang Tian was completely engulfed by the boundless darkness. Amaury's expression was very strange. Fundamental Tang, they did not lie to you. Ling Su, then you drew a sword from the void. It feels a little familiar, but also a little strange. Hey, this sword has a martial spirit. Tang Tian was surprised. Looking at Tang Tian's smug face, everyone was speechless. You really don't remember anything? Ling Su refused to give up. Chi. In the void, Wu Wanghai sneered in contempt. Amaury smiled awkwardly and said, "But we also injured a few of those who ambushed us." Tang Tian raised his eyebrows and continued, "And then she slashed me?" A smile appeared on Wu Wanghai's face. "I'm fine." Tang Tian shook his head. He was still confused. "I think I overslept." When he saw the ceiling, he was stunned. Now, why was he here? At this moment, no one dared to act rashly. It involved a sword saint, even if he had been dead for 1,500 years. Furthermore, the ocean prison sword was actually able to project itself into Tang Tian's hands. That meant that its power was not exhausted, and the legendary violent and bloodthirsty sword saint was most likely still alive as a spirit general. "Why are you finding trouble with me?" Tang Tian did not understand. A few powerful and influential people started to investigate Wu Wanghai's life. After that, they started to look for suspicious people. But they did not find any clues. Wu Wanghai's life was pitiful. Although he was a sword saint, but at that time, to many people, he was unorthodox. And Wu Wanghai was a loner, and did not leave behind any information. He really doesn't remember. Everyone was dumbfounded. Tang Tian looked down and was immediately startled. He then said disapprovingly, "You guys must have purposely placed the sword on me." Ling Su, and then she died. "Master, you're finally awake." He greeted the four of them in a daze. The four of them looked embarrassed. Crane grabbed onto Ling Su, who was about to go berserk. "Asshole, give me a bit more time. Could it be that he lost his memories?" "Wah, we need to investigate this properly." Amaury laughed out loud. "I knew it. Fundamental Tang is such a perverted person. To receive such an injury is like sleeping." Tang Tian was heartbroken. "Disappeared? How can it disappear? Aya, it's a saint sword. How much can it be sold for?" "Once the saint sword is sold, we will all be rich and can eat till we grow old." When Tang Tian opened his eyes, it was already the third day. Tang Tian looked up. His entire body was covered in black flames. He looked at the sky above his head, not moving an inch. The dense black flames released an astonishing berserk aura. He was like a thug that crawled out from the Azura battlefield, his entire body covered in black flames, as though he was covered in blood. Crane's heart moved. Try stabbing with your sword. That's right, that's right. This is definitely a good opportunity. A perfectly straight sword scar extended from his feet all the way to 15 m away. Crane and Ling Su, who heard the commotion, flew over. The jet black disappeared at an astonishing speed. The sun pierced through the clouds, causing everyone's depressed mood to ease up. Crane noticed Tang Tian's blank expression, and his heart moved. Chi, Crane, she will give you the sword. His voice became gloomy, and his figure gradually disappeared from the void. Regardless of whether it was the martial artist present or the people watching the battle from the screen, they all left with complicated feelings. However, everyone knew that this battle was far from over. It was just that there were too many questions, and the various powerhouses behind the battle were all investigating. But does that mean we won? Tang Tian regained his senses and said unhappily, "Hey, what exactly happened?" Crane, and then Meng Wei's blood meridians summoning. Everyone looked at each other. The black flames gathered like waves, whistling into the sky. So mystical, Tang Tian muttered to himself. Seems like I can only sell the safe and sound sword. The Constellation Dark Treasure, just from the name, it should be able to sell for a lot of money. Sword Saint Spirit General. That was enough to cause many people to shrink back. The black flames on his body quickly disappeared. Even Ocean Prison in his right hand was like a bubble disappearing into the sunlight. His face was as white as paper, frowning, as though he was in extreme pain. Remember what? Tang Tian looked at everyone with disdain. Don't think that I will fall for your tricks. Let me tell you, I have long seen through your scams. You want to work together to trick me? No way. I just overslept. Suddenly, Tang Tian's head was in extreme pain. The pain was so intense that Tang Tian subconsciously hugged his head. Everyone talked at once and recounted everything that had happened that day. Tang Tian listened with his eyes wide open, his face filled with disbelief. The second light pillar that descended from the sky immediately crumbled. The black flames that had yet to dissipate were like a bloodthirsty star spirit beast, pouncing towards Cetus constellation in the sky. Everyone immediately dispersed, giving him space. When he floated for half a meter, the safe and sound sword's light aura disappeared, and he fell into the sand. What they investigated the most was the black flame sword in Tang Tian's hands. Overslept? Wasn't I fighting? What a weird feeling. Tang Tian's face was puzzled. Tang Tian jumped in fright. Very quickly, the Sword Saint Shaman King Hai surfaced. Wah wah wah. Cetus constellation's light aura flickered, but the third light pillar did not descend. Feeling the fear of the safe and sound sword, Tang Tian laughed out loud. Just kidding, just kidding. Should be. Crane was unsure. This is... Tang Tian shouted and jumped up, clumsily wearing his clothes, and ran out. The four of them were startled. This time, everyone quietened down. The sudden clamor and the group of people pouncing on him caused Tang Tian's head to buzz. He was at a loss. What was going on? He threw the unrealistic thought to the back of his head. This kind of low-grade childish scam. And you want to trick this godlike young lad. Humph humph, I have long seen through all of you. Tang Tian said happily. That sword is on you. Crane pointed at Tang Tian's waist. The berserk look in Tang Tian's eyes gradually disappeared. Are you all right? Han Bingming gathered his courage and asked Tang Tian. Ling Su clenched his teeth. This asshole. He finally woke up. I want to beat him up. Tang Tian was dumbstruck. Damn it. The plan is completely messed up. This brat actually activated his second consciousness so early is truly unexpected. And he quietly floated in the sky. Looking down, his mind was moving quickly. I have to go back to sleep. Sigh, that idiot. He is not even half as smart as I am. Losing control of his body, he fell from the sky and was about to smash into the sand. The safe and sound sword in his left hand suddenly lit up with a faint light aura, supporting his body, stopping his fall. We were originally here to help, but were ambushed on the way. The four of them had an unnatural expression, and in the end it was Liang Qiu who explained. They were originally here to help, but in the end they were not able to help and were obstructed on the way. The smile on Tang Tian's face had disappeared. He touched the sword sheath, and a familiar feeling arose. It was as though he had trained in sword techniques for a long time. It was strange, he had not trained in sword techniques for a long time. Battle? Which battle? Tang Tian could not make heads or tails of it. His face was blank. Ha, then we must definitely have a feast to celebrate. Tang Tian cheered with both his arms raised up high, and with that, he pounced towards the roasting lamb. He did not care about the sword at his waist, but when his fingers touched the sword sheath, he was startled. An indescribable feeling welled up in his body. His heart moved, and he unsheathed the sword. This fellow's second consciousness is very strong. As expected of, Wu Wanghai was a sword saint. It seemed like his own father was not a simple person, and the secrets in his body that were not known to anyone seemed to be more than what he had imagined. Snatching the star power of Pavo constellation, and then the void dark flames, drawing out the Saint Sword Ocean prison, and all the sword techniques and information that flowed into his mind like a tide. After listening, Tang Tian was quiet for a long time, and suddenly asked, "Where's the Saint's sword?" Tang Tian suddenly saw a few familiar faces, and was surprised. Housefly Cow, why are you guys here?" At this time, Crane and Ling Su walked over. Ling Su had already calmed down after being consoled by Crane. Crane heard Tang Tian's words, and his heart moved. "Do you still remember that battle?" His movements were extremely fast, causing Tang Tian to be startled by his own movements, and subconsciously thrusted his sword out. "I'm injured?" This time, it was Tang Tian's turn to be startled. He lowered his head to look at himself. "I'm not injured." Chapter 315. Tang Tian was overjoyed. The little flag on Yaya's but fluttered in the wind, trembling. It was extremely comical. He squatted down, laughing maniacally, and used his fingers to play with the little flag on Yaya's butt. A few years ago, I heard that his daughter contracted a strange illness and had been searching for a cure for the past few years. My luck is not bad, and I finally found one this year. Sima Xiao laughed. Phoenix Constellation does not have an army, and Rong is not a direct descendant. He is wasting his time in the security team and has yet to fulfill his ambitions. To be able to torment an army here, why would he not be happy? Qiu Jun was surprised. "You actually managed to convince him?" He made a throat-slitting gesture. "Hey, Yaya, how did you end up like this?" Tang Tian looked at the smoky Yaya, dumbstruck. Tu Ruhai has been living too smoothly for the past few years. One wrong move, and he lost everything. He has long forgotten about it. Fatty Lee sneered. He downed the red wine in one gulp and said if he could drag it out for another 10 days, he might have the chance to make a comeback. "But a pity, I have been waiting for this day." "Master, we cannot allow him to do that. My Cetus constellation is one of the 10 equatorial palace halls. Although we do not like to go around fighting, but when have we ever suffered such humiliation? Under everyone's eyes, he stepped on my Cetus constellation and became a constellation dark treasure. Humph! That Lupus constellation is just a southern sky constellation and does not even have the qualifications to carry our shoes. That Tang Tian is just a mere 8th level and dares to use our Cetus constellation as a stepping stone. He must be tired of living." Yaya is fleshy but twisted and struggled free from Tang Tian's fingers. "Io, little shorty, don't think that just because you dyed it black, you can grow taller." Tang Tian laughed out loud, his face full of ridicule. Fatty Lee laughed, and once again filled up the cup. He was extremely pleased. "Tell me, how can I not celebrate?" Yaya proudly put her hands on its fleshy waist and raised her head with an expression that said, "Come and praise me for being awesome." Qiu Jun said calmly, "There is very little information on Wu Wanghai, but we did find out that roughly 20 years ago, a spirit general suspected to be Wu Wanghai appeared near Southern Cross constellation." Yaya was even more furious. She jumped up and down in a series of small steps. As a result, Tang Tian became even more heartless and chased after her, stirring the little flag on Yaya's butt. "We can pressure the Honorable Martial Alliance to force Tang Tian to hand over that dark treasure. I've already heard that Tang Tian doesn't have a high position in the Honorable Martial Alliance. He's just connected with Jing Hao's faction. I believe that if we pressure the Honorable Martial Alliance, the Honorable Martial Alliance will not protect us. A man dressed like a scholar stood up. He was called Ji Qiu and was an outstanding strategist. Tang Tian had played enough. He stood up and laughed. Haha, I'll stop playing with you today. I still have things to do. The elders of Onyx Soul had strict ranks. Their ranks were the same as the constellation ranks. Southern Sky, Northern Sky, Polar Ground, Equatorial Palace Hall, and Ecliptic Palace Hall. Every rank had a strict number of elders. It was extremely difficult to ascend, unless one had a special contribution to the organization. If one wanted to ascend a rank, one had to have an empty spot in a previous rank. Onyx Soul did not allow internal strife. That was just empty talk. Since they could not do it openly, they could do it secretly. Your plan to obtain the position of Patriarch has already failed. Xiuji Jun said, I've already received news. The elders think that the first branch has sacrificed too much. They have decided to compensate for the first branch. The first branch will continue to hold the position. So fast. Mo Wei Tian was surprised. He nodded his head, then go and do it. I will not let you do as you wish. Tang Tian's body froze. His pupils constricted. At that moment, the people below were all impassioned. Everyone nodded their heads. The Battle of Lupus Constellation originally did not have anything to do with Sita's constellation. Who knew that in the end, Tang Tian would fight against Sita's constellation and obtain the constellation Dark Treasure. The warriors of Sita's constellation were all injured. They were all furious. He suddenly laughed mischievously. Also, don't tell me you don't feel that these days are boring? Yiya's body uncontrollably fell to the ground. Who? Xiuji Jun asked. Tu Ruhai's face was gloomy. His days were not good. The Battle of Lupus Constellation had caused him to lose face. The two family 6 guards were the crystallization of his blood and sweat. He had spent countless of his wealth. And what made him even angrier was Meng Wei's final actions. That slut did not know how to fight to the death. Instead, she used all her strength on a broken sword. Tu Ruhai stood up. He needed to seek for support to get through this. If not, the Southern Sky Clan elders would pounce on him like wild dogs and tear him to shreds. The other party did not care. The scythe on his back had unknowingly appeared in his hands. A black aura flashed. How could a military leader be so easy to find? Fatty Lee laughed. It's because I have a lot of money now. Which talented person isn't stubborn? Sima Xiao said sternly. If I don't even have this bit of breadth of mind, what can I do? Leave the army to him. Give him whatever he wants. I won't ask. Fu Yin was one of Gongqing's left and right arms. His prestige in Sita's constellation was extremely high. His strength was unfathomable. Mo Wei Tian looked to be in a daze. But he quickly reacted. Did the city lord find a military leader? A black and meaty little fist flew out. It was Yaya, Phoenix constellation, known as the Iron Glove de Rome. A muscular man said in a deep voice. Xiuji Jun nodded his head. His standard is not bad. In the past, he led a mercenary group with outstanding results. Ever since he left, the mercenary group collapsed not long after. But I heard that he is extremely stubborn, so the higher-ups of Phoenix do not like him. That's a good idea. Fu Yin punched his fist and said excitedly. Yang Wu was Sima Zhao's previous choice. Now that Rong de Rong was here, it was impossible for Yang Wu to not have any thoughts. Ji Qiu spoke frankly with assurance. This subordinate heard that Tang Tian's goal is Southern Cross constellation. If Tang Tian and the rest are not willing to hand it over, we can close the star door between Sita's constellation and Lupus constellation as punishment. Yaya shouted angrily. Countless of clan elders from Southern Sky were staring at his position, wishing that he could immediately fall from his position. Southern Cross constellation? Sima Xiao stuffed the pastries into his mouth and said unclearly, the person who set it up is truly far-sighted. What other clues do you have? Sita's constellation. Sima Zhao's smile disappeared. I don't know, but it's never a bad thing to be prepared. He felt a sense of urgency and had to take action. Fatty Lee opened a bottle of wine. With a satisfied smile on his face, he passed a cup to Mo Weitan. "Brother, you better send those mechanical spirit weapons over quickly. I'm waiting to build an army." "Ha ha," Fatty Lee laughed. "Ruhai has 5 cities, and 2 of them are already in my hands. And I will spread the news. The remaining 3, I do not want any of them. Hee hee, all the little nans below will all pounce on them with red eyes. Ruhai is finished." Hui, Sima family. The door in front of him opened without any wind, and a figure carrying a gigantic scythe and covered in a cloak appeared at his door. He walked to the door, and suddenly his face changed, and he took half a step back. He raised both of its hands and gestured with an "yeah," and then made a long sucking action. Sima Xiao said, "Let the 2 of them compete, and the loser will be the assistant. That is very fair. No one has any objections." Mo Wei Tian was even more surprised. City Lord got rich again? That a good idea? Qiu Ji Jun evaluated and suddenly asked, "You don't think well of the current situation? Or should I say, do you think that Tang Tian will really affect your plans?" Yi immediately covered the little flag on its buttocks and only stopped after jumping far away did it stop. Gongqing did not even raise his eyelids and asked indifferently, "What ideas do you have? We can't just go and kill a wimpy brat with such a large group of people. If word gets out, we will definitely be seen as the strong bullying the weak, and we will definitely not be able to run away." Gongqing sat on the seat his throne, his hands supporting his chin on the armrest, as though he was deep in thought. He was already 60 years old, but looked like a 40-year-old middle-aged man, without any signs of aging, and had a scholarly temperament. He had already been in Sita's constellation for 10 years, and was fair and was deeply loved by the citizens. Tang Tian had just stepped into the light door, when a black figure suddenly rushed in front of him and suddenly stopped, causing him to jump in fright. Yaya's entire body was pitch black, as though he had just climbed out of a chimney, and his entire body was covered in soot. Only his pair of small eyes blinked. Mo Wei Tian was startled. "Black scythe? No." Qiu Ji Jun shook his head. Mo Wei Tian's eyes widened in disbelief. "Don't tell me." It squeaked in dissatisfaction, its small fist thumping on its chest, sticking out its chest to show that it was strong and sturdy. Tang Tian pinched his nose with one hand and carefully pinched Yaya's buttocks with the other and brought it in front of him. Just that. Ruhai's face changed, and his voice trembled too. "Who hired you? I'll pay you. I'll pay double, no triple. No choice. Our foundation is too weak." Sima Xiao waved his hand and said vaguely, "But it doesn't matter. I found a good military leader. As long as we build up the army, even if we don't have a patriarch position, it doesn't matter." "So dirty." I said, "You're not allowed to climb on me in the future." TSK. "Look at you. You look like a coal miner. It's good that you smoked that broken cigarette. It's so noisy all day, so annoying." Tang Tian immediately said with a serious face, "But I still have to remind you, little friend, smoking is harmful to your health." Gongqing nodded his head. "That's right, but what if Tang Tian doesn't hand it over? Are we going to find trouble with Tang Tian? As one of the 10 Equatorial Palace halls, to find trouble with a brat who is still wet behind the ears, it would be an unfair victory." "Seems like that's the only way," Sima Xiao said indifferently. Yaya was enraged, its 2 meaty legs half squatted, and got into a fighting stance. Gongqing felt that it was a good idea. Sita's constellation was the shortest route to Southern Cross constellation. If Tang Tian and the rest did not agree, it would mean that they had to take a big detour. The time spent and the danger they would encounter would be many times more. And with that, they would not have too much of a conflict with the Honorable Martial Alliance, and no one would say anything. Qiu Ji Jun asked, "Then what about Yang Wu?" Tang Tian watched in a daze, and only reacted after a while, and asked in a daze, "You said that you inhaled all of the cigarette into your stomach?" There were already many rumors saying that his position as clan elder of the Northern Sky was unstable. Chapter 316. This blue ice crystal is a terrifying poison called the ice blue heart because it directly affects a person's state of mind. In the past, there were people who used it to train in bewitching and bewitching martial techniques. It is the same as the void dark flames and is also mixed by humans. And when it is mixed with the void dark flames, it forms a delicate balance and is not poisonous. Such a miraculous method. I have never heard of it before. Tang Tian was dumbstruck. Of course. Bing knew it was a crucial moment and started to brag. You know, in my era, the atmosphere was rather free. Especially for the training of martial techniques, there were no rules and regulations now, and the pursuit of the limit was a kind of atmosphere. For example, the fastest sword, the strongest power, the strongest defense, the strongest perception, the most agile footwork. Whoever can achieve one of them will immediately become famous in the army. Those assholes all have nowhere to vent their energy, so they spend their days tormenting themselves. Out of the 3 great armies, our Southern Cross Army's atmosphere is definitely the best. Old Man Fei laughed foolishly. He was extremely satisfied with the conditions there. At the start, he was worried about 3 Spirits City, a place he had never heard of before and did not know what kind of countryside it was. There are some results. Old Man Fei's mind was roused. For the past few days, he had been researching day and night, forgetting to eat and sleep. He was very clear the boss had spent $5 billion, and the importance he placed on this matter was incomparable. The sooner he produced results, the more the boss would value it, and more confidence he would have in himself. Master, please follow me. Old Man Fei led the way, passing through layers of mechanisms, and arrived at the depths of the tightly guarded laboratory. Yaya's body froze, his meaty face filled with fear. Sile immediately divided an astonishingly large area for him. He was sure that if the blood meridian specialists in Yong'an City saw his current condition, they would not even want a single star coin and would run over crying and screaming. Bing finally could not help but reveal a ridiculing look. You think anyone can open it? Only people like me, with authority, can open it. The ranks of the army are much stricter than you think, rookie. Clay soil plateau, Tang Tian stammered. It means it is not inherited from the parents. Old Man Fei explained. Yaya's fist stopped 2 centimeters away from Tang Tian's nose. Now there's a chance for it to redeem itself. Bing's voice suddenly came out from behind Tang Tian. The darkness disappeared as quickly as it came. In the blink of an eye, it disappeared like a phantom. An abandoned barracks? Tang Tian was stunned. A bronze base of such a large scale. Really? Tang Tian didn't believe it. As soon as Tang Tian entered, he was attracted by a wisp of black flame floating in the glass cover. Bing was suddenly enlightened and immediately changed his expression like a spring breeze. With the army barracks, it will be of great help to your training of martial techniques. Think about it. The wind concealment and air shield strike technique that you're training now have the qualifications to become unique martial techniques. As long as you have a barracks, your chances of breaking through will greatly increase. Many of the training programs in the barracks exist for the sake of pursuing the limits. Tang Tian didn't notice it just now, but upon closer inspection, he realized that there was a needle-sized blue ice crystal floating in the glass cover. It was too small, and Tang Tian didn't notice it just now. Bing pointed to the left of Tang Tian. It's in that direction, but we need to open a path through the clock sand. Yaya's swallowing light steel fist is suitable. Yes, I remember that when we used light body techniques to travel, it would take us about 2 months. Bing recalled. The clay soil plateau is extremely vast, and the Tao tribe lives there. In the past, in our army, many people were from the Tao tribe. Tang Tian was just asking casually. He didn't expect Old Man Fei to have results, and immediately said, "Tell me about it." The more Tang Tian thought about it, the angrier he got, and the more he felt pain. He stared at Yaya with an unkind expression. Yaya immediately put on a flattering smile, but it had a cold face, and other than its eyes, nothing else could be seen. Tang Tian left the recruit barracks full of pity, and came to 3 Spirit City, and was welcomed by Pai Pa, who brought him to Old Man Fei's laboratory. Tang Tian's heart moved. Could it be? The reason why we abandoned it is not because of any problems with its functions. Bing patiently explained, and I can also take over that barracks so I can open it. It has many functions and can give you even more help. The barracks of a Southern Cross Army have very complete functions, and it can give birth to a captain level and above spirit military leader. Suddenly, the world spun, and it was picked up by Tang Tian. Then its body was pulled into a thin film, and then it was kneaded into a ball. Tang Tian muttered, "Other than being a little darker, there's no change. Don't tell me that the black smoke is used to swallow it. Do I need to dissect it? See if there are any spirit cards for the swallowing light steel fist?" Tang Tian reacted and stammered, "Swallowing light steel fist." The black flames in Master's blood meridians. After separating them, we finally determined that it is the void dark flames. When Old Man Fei talked about his field of expertise, he immediately became energetic. The void dark flames exist in the void. Until now, there are only 3 blood meridians that have the possibility of possessing the void dark flames. But after eliminating them, they're not the 3. And I realized the void dark flames in Master's blood meridians is not innate. Request? Tang Tian was startled. To be able to undo my blood meridians. Request for profit? Pai Pa continued to ask. Seeing Bing's, "I am an important person" face, Tang Tian sneered. "Hey, officer, then go and open it." Old Man Fei secretly guessed that Master must have come from an ancient aristocratic family, and only those aristocratic families could possibly have such a large scale. The bronze base already made him extremely shocked, and Silei's mechanical laboratory made him even more shocked. He did not have much understanding of mechanisms, but he could still see the configuration here was enough to make most of the mechanical engineers jealous. "All right." Tang Tian casually passed Yaya to Bing and casually asked, "Roughly how far is it?" "The conditions are not bad." Tang Tian looked around. The space here was vast, all sorts of treasures, lined up in a row. The light aura practically blinded Tang Tian's eyes. Spending 1.5 billion on treasures. The result was extremely shocking. If other Blood Meridian specialists were to see this scene, they would definitely be so jealous that they would vomit blood and die on the spot. Yaya was obviously extremely pleased with Tang Tian's expression, but it forgot that it was in the air, and with a plop, it dropped to the ground, like a piece of jelly being flattened. In the blink of an eye, its body that was filled with elasticity returned to its original state and bounced up from the ground. "That means it was added in later?" Tang Tian asked. Old Man Fei's hand pointed to another glass cover. Tang Tian looked at Yaya sympathetically and dug out a path across the entire plateau. Old Man Fei said, "When I separated the void dark flames, an ice blue heart, Master's blood had a new change." Tang Tian saw Pai Pa, and his eyes lit up. "Pai Pa, do you have any suggestions?" Who knew that when he followed Bell to Three Spirits City and saw the gigantic base under construction, he was completely dumbstruck. Doesn't that mean that if someone finds the barracks, they will be able to produce a spirit military leader? Tang Tian asked. "That's right, I do not know, and am not smart enough, but there are smart people out there." It regretted it to death, not showing off, not courting death. The sudden darkness caused Tang Tian to be dumbstruck. That was a unique martial technique, and it was actually swallowed by a Bud Spirit general. Such a waste. So much money. Tang Tian's face turned suspiciously. "What do you mean by atoning for my sins?" "No request." Tang Tian shook his head. There were many ways to earn money, and he did not wish to delay the progress of breaking the blood meridians. "I hope that it can be done as soon as possible. The only goal of the laboratory is to break my blood meridians. Pai Pa is really capable. I'll leave it to you," Tang Tian said happily. "The real barracks?" Tang Tian was immediately attracted to Bing's topic and asked curiously, "Didn't you say that the real barracks are all at Southern Cross Constellation?" Tang Tian was moved. "Where is the abandoned army?" Yaya immediately raised his head and displayed an expression of, "I am extremely trustworthy." Not an 8? What do you mean? Tang Tian was startled. So it's like that. Tang Tian was enlightened and immediately asked suspiciously, "What's the use of the abandoned barracks?" "Who?" Tang Tian looked at the empty surroundings and said, "If you need help, you can go and find some people." "Can I?" Old Man Fei was surprised. He knew of many talented blood meridian specialists. He looked at the luxurious laboratory and thought of his old comrades who were still munching on vegetables. "That's right." Bing recalled, "It used to be the front lines, and there was an army stationed there. But after that, our defensive line continued to expand outwards, and the army's encampment also continued to move outwards, so the barracks gradually became abandoned. Your strength has already broken through the limit of the recruit barracks. The recruit barracks will no longer be able to give you any new help. We need a real barracks." Bing explained. He did not mention anything about the battle with Tang Tian that day. "I understand," Pai Pa said calmly. "I will use this point to formulate a relevant plan." The light in front of him suddenly disappeared, and Tang Tian's vision was suddenly pulled into darkness. Yaya had already fainted from shock. Bing beamed with joy as he received it, and said, "It's not far. Just pass through the clay plateau, and you'll be there." Old Man Fei did not refute. After these few days of interaction, Pai Pa's knowledge and ability had already convinced him. Whenever he met with any problems, the first person he would look for was Pai Pa, and Pai Pa was obviously more reliable than Sai Lei, who could disappear anytime. "That can be done," Tang Tian said. "If there's a suitable person, just directly call them over." "That's true," Bing continued, "but near the recruit barracks, there is actually an abandoned barracks." Pai Pa pondered for a moment and asked, "Master, what are your requirements for the laboratory?" Yaya happily bent his arm and acted like a strong man. "Master's understanding is very correct." Old Man Fei's face congealed. "This void dark flame is through the use of human power and was completely dispersed and mixed into Master's blood. Other than that, I also discovered another substance that is similar to the void dark flame." "All right, Old Fei, any results recently?" Tang Tian asked. Chapter 317. Master's blood is definitely not normal. Old Man Fei said excitedly. "The void dark flames and the ice blue heart are the outermost locks of Master's blood. The two are completely opposite substances, but they achieve a perfect balance, like a lock, and also like a protective layer. The silver liquid and the black sand is a completely new balance. If Master wants to activate the power of his blood meridians, you have to open all the locks." Old Man Fei glanced at Tang Tian and hesitated. Tang Tian suddenly slapped his forehead. "I actually forgot to check the spoils of war." Seeing Yaya dragging the three little ones, with a face full of determination, he walked towards the place where the 2222 was and continued to 2222. Tang Tian was gratified. The teasing voice, along with the moist and fragrant breath, drilled into Tang Tian's ears. "You can even see through this?" Little Tang Tang is becoming more and more powerful. It was still the same sweet voice, her fingertips grinding like a sharp knife, causing Tang Tian's heart to tremble. "I heard. You earned one. 5 billion in Yong'an City. You see, don't you want to support me a little? Whatever conditions you have, I can satisfy you." She turned her head, smiling like a flower, and caressed Tang Tian's face. "Little Tang Tian is such a good boy. I did not dote on you in vain. When will Mo Wei Tian arrive?" The concentrated vibrations caused Tang Tian to be startled for a moment. When he saw it clearly, he was instantly gratified. Tang Tian was excited, his hairs all standing. Yaya quickly waved her little fists like a small-scale wall chiseling machine. 222 moving forward, her speed was extremely fast. Not long later, she advanced over 10 m, as expected of the swallowing light steel fist. "I was thinking, why would he use the void dark flames and the ice blue heart, and not the others? Other than the fact that the two are completely opposite, there must be a deeper reason. The ice blue heart can make people calm and sensitive, while the void dark flames has the exact opposite effect. It can make people go berserk and thus stimulate the power of the body. Tang Tian secretly cursed. Then we will have to search for these locks. In the little old man's opinion, the greatest use of this lock was for protection. One possibility was to protect the Lord's bloodline from being used by outsiders. Even if others obtained the Lord's bloodline, it would be useless, unless they could break these locks, but this was extremely difficult. It could also be to protect you from the backlash of your bloodline. The sweet voice drilled into Tang Tian's ears, but Tang Tian couldn't help but shiver. Hey, if you have something to say, just say it. Tang Tian forced himself to calm down and laughed. Don't tell me you're short of money again. That's right. I want half. Sai Lei was murderous. I can't let that poker face take everything for himself. Bloodline backlash. This was the first time Tang Tian had heard of this, and his face was full of surprise. Old Man Fei said excitedly, "Don't worry, master. I will do my best." Just as he stepped out of the room, a snow-white arm wrapped around his neck. Sai Lei was like a female hoodlum on Tang Tian's shoulder. It looked intimate, but in actual fact, she was forcefully dragging Tang Tian away. They will definitely come within these 2 days. Tang Tian's smile froze on his face. After saying that, he ran away. Tang Tian was tortured for a full 15 minutes and had no choice but to force himself to close his eyes. He patted Old Man Fei's shoulder. "You did great. All right, I'll leave it all to you." He happily prepared to return to the Lupus tribe. It was time to reap the harvest. "Sigh, now that I have so much money, what should I do?" Tang Tian shook his head. He had the look of someone who suddenly became rich, and his tone was full of flaunting. "Yes," Old Man Fei explained. "Why are most of the strong, ancient races now annihilated? Because of their pure bloodline. The power contained within is too strong. Once the power explodes, and their bodies are unable to withstand it, they will explode and die. Especially during the fantasy years, this kind of explosion is very common. Now that the blood meridians of the fighting races are not pure, there is no danger of their bodies exploding. Actually, it is also a type of evolution to allow the race to continue on." Yes. Old Man Fei was afraid that Tang Tian would slap his head and ask him to understand, and immediately said, "This is a long-term job and will last for a very long time. Every lock's substance and power is unknown, and to understand it is not easy. I have seen the Ice Heart Indigo and Void Dark Flames before, so my progress is faster." Old Man Fei chattered on, saying a bunch of things that Tang Tian did not understand, causing Tang Tian to become dizzy. Dong dong dong. No one knew her character better than him. To be as venomous as a snake or scorpion. That was an insult to a snake or scorpion. Seeing Sai Lei's posture, Tang Tian knew something was wrong. "That's good." Old Man Fei relaxed and laughed. "These few days, I've been researching on the Void Dark Flames and Ice Heart Indigo. This method of balance is extremely exquisite. The person who did is not only powerful, but also has profound attainments in blood meridians. Based on these two, I have some gains." Yes, what do we do? We can't even finish spinning the flowers." Belle giggled. But regarding Mo Wei Tian's trip to Three Spirit City, he was extremely confident. If he had lost, that would be another matter, but since he had won, Mo Wei Tian would definitely not sit still. Sigh. Belle was extremely pleased. Didn't Yong'an City have people betting on who will win? Anyway, I think if Master loses, there is no meaning to the funds. I will use all the funds that Master gave me and bet it all on Master winning. That will be a huge profit. If I believed you, I would be stupid. Tang Tian coughed lightly. As a man, you have to accept the tough challenges. You have to learn to share the joys and sorrows with your brothers. Look, you still have your companions. Tang Tian reminded him. Remember to prepare 1 or 2 new mechanical spirit weapon designs. Who knows, you might be able to sell them for a good price. Tang Tian did not know that these things could not be rushed and consoled him. You just have to hurry. But, as a man, how could he be scared by a woman? Tang Tian swore solemnly. This is my blood? Tang Tian was dumbstruck. He could not believe his own eyes. Could it be that my blood meridians are very powerful? Tang Tian was roused. What gains? Why are there these things in my blood? Tang Tian subconsciously asked. The second lock? Tang Tian was startled. Tang Tian yawned and left. Io, can't big sister miss you? Her snow-white fingers teasingly lifted up Tang Tian's chin, exhaling like orchids. Her enchanting face caused people to have wild and fanciful thoughts. Faintly, she said, 5 billion laboratory, such a large sum. Big sister in that poker face only split 3 billion, and he still has the biggest share. Big sister is so pitiful. Now the laboratory is so small, broken and dark. Little Tang Tang, tell me, shouldn't you save big sister? Tang Tian stared at him. If you have something to say, say it. Don't worry, this old lady's way of doing business, compared to a rookie like you, is much stronger. Sai Lei arrogantly turned and left. Old man Fei embarrassedly said, This matter, who can say for sure? But this old man has a few guesses. Tang Tian pointed to the 3 mini-mechanical beasts standing at the side. Yes, old man Fei was slightly fanatical. This is the first time this subordinate has seen such a miraculous blood, and this is definitely not its original form. The composition of the silver liquid and black sand is not clear, but this subordinate dares to confirm they're actually the same as the void dark flames ice blue heart, and are equivalent to the second lock. Bell extended out 5 fingers. 500 million! How many? Tang Tian was startled. He did not have a single guess, but old man Fei could actually think of a few, and asked curiously, Which few? What change? Tang Tian asked anxiously. Did something good happen to you? Tang Tian asked curiously. I don't know yet. Old man Fei shook his head and said carefully, I need to completely unlock it to know. Maybe Master's blood meridians might not be strong, but it might be very special and sensitive to escape from enemies. That is not impossible. When Tang Tian saw Bell, Bell's face was filled with joy. The 3 mini-mechanical beasts were immediately filled with fear and turned to run, while Yaya's face was suddenly enlightened, and he disappeared. That after a period of time, Mo Wei Tian will come here. He brought a big business. Tang Tian originally wanted to divert the trouble, but the more he spoke, the more he felt that his idea was brilliant. The last time we sold Mo Wei Tian's Corvus Gold, he sold it all to Yong and City Lord. He earned about 16 billion. Master, please take a look. Old man Fei opened the bronze cold storage box and took out a test tube. Tang Tian did not care about the pain and immediately said, But he plans to give all 16 billion to us, of course. There's a condition. We need to help him train a batch of students. Logically speaking, this matter has nothing to do with you. But think about it. You built the foundations and contributed to it. Whatever training facilities, they need you to build them, and you contributed to it. The main point is the mechanical spirit weapons used for training also need you to create them. I feel this 16 billion, you need to get at least half. Tang Tian felt a pain in his chin and took a deep cold breath, then heard Sai Lei clenching her teeth. This unscrupulous businessman. Tang Tian immediately became excited. How much did you earn? Seems like I need to prepare well. Sai Lei rolled up her sleeves, her face filled with killing intent, as though she wanted to rip Mo Wei Tian off. But this time, he had gained a lot, although he did not understand the true mystery of the blood meridians. But at least he had a substantial improvement. He had to let Bell go and find out about the sword Saint Wu Wang Hai. Crane said the sword that he pulled out from the void was called Ocean Prison. He was like a gust of wind passing through 3 Spirit City, and like a gust of wind, he appeared in the recruit barracks. As expected, they're all trash that burned bridges after crossing the river. Ayaya, little Tang Tang, we haven't met for so many days. Big sister misses you. Her red fingernails caressed Tang Tian's chin, causing Tang Tian to have goosebumps all over his body. This lady will not slit my throat right. The test tube was like mercury with an intense silver-white metallic luster. The texture was sticky, mixed with specks of black sand. It was extremely mysterious. But when Tang Tian thought about the high plains, the weather today is so good. That means as long as I completely unlock it, I will be able to understand. Tang Tian was completely confused by old man Fei's possibilities. Yaya sensed Tang Tian and immediately appeared beside Tang Tian's legs, her small hands tugging on Tang Tian's pants. She pouted, raising her chubby pitch-black face, tears welling up in her eyes. Chapter 3:18. After Tang Tian and Bing entered the light door, they suddenly noticed that there was a small path that had already been dug out for a long distance. He suddenly thought about it. The flow of time here was very different from the outside world. Amaury hesitated for a while, then said, "Fundamental Tang, I have something to tell you." "You mean?" Bing was deep in thought. Upon thinking about it, not only was Crane not afraid of the Honorable Martial Alliance, but he was also extremely excited. Sima Xiangshan said coldly, "Then we will wait for the Honorable Martial Group to chase after us." Crane did not refute, but said calmly, "You are now in the limelight, publicly leaving the Honorable Martial Alliance. The Honorable Martial Alliance will definitely not let you go. We need to make preparations in advance. Firstly, we need to first close the star door to Cetus Constellation and cut off Cetus Constellation's attack route to prevent them from being attacked from the front and back. Secondly, we need to use the shortest time possible to wipe out the other powerhouses of Lupus Constellation and stabilize our own base camp. Thirdly, we need to make preparations and wait for the Honorable Martial Alliance to come." Tang Tian was quiet for a while, then suddenly raised his head. "Uncle." Amaury's face flushed red. "If they want to chase after us, so be it. If a man has to live so sullenly, then why not just die? The one with the surname Sima. If you are afraid of death, just say it." When Tang Tian returned to the tribe, he realized that the atmosphere was somewhat stifling. Crane, Ling Su, Amaury, and a few others sat around. All of their faces were not looking good. But everyone present was a person who wished for the world to be in chaos. So they all dispersed and started to train. "I want to use this 16 billion and use it all on everyone. I want everyone to become stronger." Well said. Tang Tian's heart was moved. No matter what, everyone's trust made him feel warm. He said solemnly, "I don't understand the big principles, but I will definitely not hand the sword over to them. I will not be aggrieved or look at the big picture. I only understand one sentence: an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They respect me. I will respect them. Whoever wants to bully me, I will use my fist to return the favor." "Hey, Ling Su, are you really not afraid?" Suddenly, Bing's voice sounded out. "Huma Air and Tang, it can just bring the army. Control the starry door first." The martial artists of Lupus Constellation that had already surrendered could be recruited. Kongda and the rest were dead, so they were more reliable. "Huma Air, how many starry doors does Lupus Constellation have?" "No problem." Tang Tian didn't know anything about strategy, but when it came to improving one's strength, he was quite experienced. "Our spoils of war this time have a lot of useful artifacts. Everyone, see if there are any that are suitable for you and choose for yourselves." Then, everyone thought about what could increase their strength in a short period of time. Spirit cards, star rocks, star treasures, anything would do. "Tell me everything. I'll think of a way." "I quit the Honorable Martial Alliance," Tang Tian said resolutely. "There's no point in joining such an organization. I like the spirit of a nouveau riche." Sima Yen laughed. "Why?" Tang Tian was stunned. Liang Xiao immediately stopped the two of them. Bing looked at Tang Tian quietly. Suddenly, it was as though he had returned to the past. That young lad was like Tang Tian now. His eyes were filled with longing and anticipation. His fighting spirit was high, and he asked the commander with a trace of naivety, "Commander, you definitely have a way for me to become stronger quickly, right?" Tang Tian's gaze became cold, his face green. Liang Xiao stood up and sighed. "Cetus Constellation is pressuring us. They think that our actions against Cetus Constellation are not appropriate. They think that they wish to take back the safe and sound sword and destroy it. The clan elder said that if you are willing, the Honorable Martial Group is willing to compensate you. I was originally afraid of death." Sima Xiangshan said sinisterly. "Luckily, I did something to our Honorable Martial Plate. If not, we would be burdened by a fool like you. Liang Qiu reminded him. The most important thing to deal with the honorable martial sect is to have such treasures. Bing was surprised. He stopped. Ling Su reminded him. The clothes for training true power are useful. He felt weird. He could not help but ask. Hey, what's wrong with you guys? People who don't know would think that we lost. That's a good idea. Bing's eyes lit up. I'll go find Lei. Who are you calling a fool? Amaury's eyes widened. He was furious. Tang Tian's expression suddenly became cold. What does it have to do with Cetus constellation? Everyone burst out laughing. Tang Tian nodded, indicating that he understood. That's great. I'm not afraid of hard work. Tang Tian was so happy that he jumped up. His tone was confident. We are not afraid. So the first thing we need to do is to drag it out. Crane's black pupils were calm and wise. Regarding the matter of the sword, we need to act hesitant. Just say that we are thinking. After that, we can pretend to discuss terms with the honorable martial group. We need to give them the misconception that we are reluctantly willing to hand it over. But the terms must be suitable. And in this period of time, we need to use the fastest speed to sweep Lupus constellation. Haha, little Bing Bing, there is indeed such a thing. But it's very hard work. The majestic captain had a cigar in his mouth. He caressed the young man's head and laughed. Amaury's eyes were filled with anger. He said stiffly, the clan elder hopes that you can hand the safe and sound sword over to the honorable martial group. There will be a day when I will use my fist to smash open the door of Cetus constellation. Cetus constellation means that if we reject them, they will close the starry door between Cetus constellation and Lupus constellation. Liang Qiu insisted on finishing his sentence. Stab them to death. Kill them. Only after Bing had arranged everything did Crane continue. Wait until we have swept Lupus constellation. Then we will suddenly close the starry door to Cetus constellation. At this time, the honorable martial group and Cetus constellation would also wake up. But if the honorable martial group wants to deal with us, they will need to gather martial artists from the northern skies' 19 continents. This also requires time. We need to strive for this period of time and work hard to raise our own strength. Ling Su was enraged. Get lost. Tang Tian raised his head. He looked at Bing with anticipation. Amaury was enraged. Humph, the clan elder is too weak. If senior brother Jing Hao was here, such a thing would definitely not happen. Crane's explanation was clear. Almost everyone nodded their heads. Don't appear for the next few days. Crane said, as long as you don't appear, Tang, Yi, and the rest movements will not attract too much attention. Lupus constellation is such a small place. The people up there will not care about it. At the end, Tang Tian's tone was as fierce as a wolf. No one interrupted the matter of commanding the battle. Previously, Bing had already displayed his strength as a military general. If Cetus constellation closes the star door, we will also close the star door. Tang Tian clenched his teeth. That's right, we are still weak now. But if we continue to walk down the constellation after constellation, we will definitely become stronger. We could be defeated or killed, but we will definitely not be scared to death. If we retreat here, then how many more dangers and difficulties are waiting for us to retreat? Liang Qiu understood Tang Tian's character. After all, they came from the same place. With Tang Tian's wild and untamed character, how could he submit? The higher-ups of the Honorable Martial Alliance probably wanted to use this method to suppress Tang Tian, who was in the limelight. The Honorable Martial Alliance had a strict hierarchy. The higher-ups were extremely strict to the lower-ups. Even though Tang Tian was in the limelight, but with the identity of a bronze-ranked martial artist, he had no position in the Honorable Martial Group. Suddenly, Han Bingning said, I'm not going back to the Honorable Martial Group. 4. Huma Air immediately said, one leads to Cetus constellation, one leads to Corvus constellation, one leads to Delphinus constellation, and the last one leads to a place called Zhenhai City. All right, Tang Tian agreed. Amaury jumped up excitedly. Sister Bing is not going back either. That's great. I'm not going back either. I'm so angry. Such a broken honorable martial group, without any loyalty. It is so stifling. Broken honorable martial group. Liang Qiu laughed warmly. Of course, everyone will be together. Uncle, you definitely have a way, right? Bing nodded his head. You guys have to make a big show of force. We have just defeated Onyx Soul. If we make a big show of force, there will be fewer people resisting. Huama Air, Tang, Yi, go to the prison camp and choose your captives. Also, they were ambushed. There was definitely someone colluding with outsiders. Tang Tian suddenly thought of an idea. Hey, Uncle, if we let Sai Lei make more mechanical beasts, will it be faster? But the person Liang Xiu was most disappointed in was undoubtedly the clan elder. No wonder their branch was not strong enough in the neutral faction. The clan elder knew of Tang Tian and Jing Hao's relationship and had promised to take care of them in the past, but they actually retreated so easily, it truly made their hearts cold. What's the matter? Tang Tian had a weird look. Hey, housefly cow, when did you learn to stutter? Huama Air immediately followed. With the help of the three little ones, Yaya's speed increased tremendously. They had already advanced over 10 li. Everyone kept quiet. At most, we will fight. Who's afraid of who? Sita's constellation. A cold intent flashed past Crane's eyes. Seeing Tang Tian's expression, he said, Tang Tian, this sword belongs to you. You can make any decision. Bing was startled. It was as though a lifetime had passed. Yes, Tang Yi replied. That's right. Ling Su snorted. Just a broken fish, one spear to death. Tang Tian's words were resolute and decisive. Crane looked at the group of youngsters who were shouting and shouting. It was as though they could not wait to fight again. He rubbed his head. They were truly a group of impulsive and crude fellows. They did not have any strategy. He could only ask, then what about the Honorable Martial Alliance? Everyone quietened down. Everyone was excited and slightly fearful. In a battle with the two family six guards, Turu Hai was just a Northern Sky Gray Clan elder. But this time, they had fallen out with the Honorable Martial Alliance. What awaited them was a fierce battle. The Honorable Martial Alliance's punishment towards defectors was extremely severe. One could imagine that once they knew the truth, the higher-ups of the Honorable Martial Alliance would definitely be furious. Coincidentally, Bing blurted out, Indeed there is, but it will be very tough. Can you lend me that sum of money? Tang Tian was slightly embarrassed. That sum of money from a Mo Wei Tian. Tang Tian seemed to be saying to himself, This battle, we must definitely win. I know, everyone is involved in this battle because of me. No matter what, we cannot fail.